Did we lose a chair or something funky?
I don't know. Nancy, take
I think I normally sit there. I don't know.
Take one and pass it.
Skip, gonna join us or not?
He didn't go, was he at the president's meeting to
No, he
discuss
wasn't.
Want to pass that?
his proposal for, he wasn't there? Redoing the ponds thing for gutters, downspouts and all that.
No, other than, no, he was not there.
Did they give a presentation?
No, I told him.
Okay. Did
We're live.
Mike talk to you?
We are live.
Oh, we're live.
Yay.
So don't say anything nasty, but I'm gonna give Gepper 2 more minutes.
Ow.
According to my list,
Killjoy.
he's supposed to be here.
This is just the borders, and I have it in Excel.
I was the first one there, so I told everybody, welcome to Grogan. And they still call it Grogan Lane.
So I'm just gonna take this number out. Yes, I sent it out.
He wasn't at the president's meeting, but I got this, I don't know who left this here, attendance, yes.
That's a horrible name.
I wish we could do away with these computer screens.
This is so the supervisors
Yeah,
get to see the,
they can see all. There he is. I allotted you an extra 2 minutes, and you made it.
Honey Apartments, it's really tight out there.
Yes,
Very
New
tight
Year's,
up
one
there.
all.
Parked on the grass.
I was going to, and then I said, let me go around the side.
Did you, was this stuff here in front of us, or did you get it?
You have to get it there, except, was there an extra copy of that?
Yes.
Here they're all coming. What is this?
Mr. Gepper.
This just came today.
That just came, yeah. I was gonna read it because, but April made
I just got a letter.
it being 2 o'clock, I'll call the meeting to order. Meeting of the Pelican Preserve Advisory Committee, January 12th. I would ask that we all concentrate on the meeting. January 12th, 2017 is called to order. We have a quorum. Everybody is here, all 7 of us. We'll start off, let me make a comment on the agenda. You'll see that I requested Diane to make a kind of a change in the format, in that under the various categories that we're working on, I suggested that we should add significant items that we're going to talk about. I think it would make, I felt it would be more meaningful to people who are looking at the agenda to know at least they're not all there. So I would ask that if you're making any, if you have any significant items, things that will take some period of discussion, that when the agenda comes out and Diane asks for your comments, that you add those as kind of subsets to the particular area that we have to be talking about. I think it would make I believe it would make a more meaningful agenda, although I'm open to comments of people if they think that that's more of a pain than it's worth. Any thoughts? I'll take that as a,
Yeah, I'm fine
I
with
think
it.
it's good.
I think that's a good idea.
I'll take that as an approval of doing that. I don't think we need any motions. Approval of the minutes for the December 8th meeting. I owe you an apology. I got my corrections to Diane a little bit late, so you may not have had a chance to spend the amount of time on this you wanted to, but you have had it for at least 2 to 3 days. So I would ask, are there any changes?
One change I would make
Yes.
is somewhere in here,
Yep.
Diane has quoted me as talking about, when we were talking about golf carts and bicycles.
Yes.
I'd like to clarify it.
Okay.
say that I was referring to, there were more bicycles than golf carts,
Okay,
wherever that was.
yeah, that would be safety, security, work group, that would be on page, I don't know, the page is numbered.
They're not numbered.
Second to last page, but it's item 11, the last paragraph.
Yeah, right above background checks.
Report, you know, it's a greater number
Uh-huh,
of bicycles than
of bicycles, then,
golf carts
Than
in
golf
Portofino.
carts.
Yeah.
okay. Any other changes?
I have a comment on the number 10, capital asset work group.
Yes.
Nancy, your comment about the verbiage, PPAC, I think that really was supposed to be PPCA. And it might be my fault in the report, I'm looking,
Yeah.
would that be correct? Isn't it the PPCA servicing the assets?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah,
it
so
is.
that's what it should
That's-
be.
It should
It
be.
says
P-
PPAC.
Huh? No,
It says AC.
it should
Should
say
be.
both.
PPCA.
CA, right.
Yes.
Right, PPCA,
So that needs a correction,
correct.
yeah. You are
And
right
that might
about
be
John. I mean-
typo in my report too, which
Well,
I'll apologize for
I
if
may
it
have
is.
missed, I missed that one.
Okay. I had one typo
Okay,
under, just above item 10,
yeah,
at the fourth line, the second paragraph up. Bob Gephardt stated if there's anything wrong with the aeration installation project by, should be Lake Masters.
Lake Masters,
And it says a Lake Masters.
yeah. Any other changes, additions? If not, I'll entertain a motion that the minutes be approved.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
And it's-
Substitute changes.
Huh?
Subject to the
With
changes,
change,
right.
subject to the changes. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. We go into the financials. Nancy, you're on.
Okay,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh.
Let me back off. You all just received a copy of a letter from April that came out belatedly, so we weren't able to get it to you. Describing the fact that we are in the process of revising the scope of services with Severn Trent, including the committee board and committee minutes, and they will focus on motions, voting, significant issues, and conclusions. The minutes will not be verbatim. And she gives you the consideration of that. And I must admit, my reaction is, I think that's very good. I mean, I think, you know, our minutes are composed somewhat of verbatim and somewhat not verbatim, and they're often very confusing and difficult. And I find myself, when I send them back to Diane, making pretty extensive changes in them. So anything that would shorten them up, make them short and sweet, I would certainly support.
I concur with that, absolutely.
I
I do
agree.
too, I think it's a good idea.
I just have one question.
Yeah,
Will, in this summary,
yes.
will it still try to encapsulate the flavor of what was being proposed? If it does
Yes.
that, then I'm okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I would hope that it.
Not that it's just gonna say, financial gave the report, next item. Safety gave a report, next item.
Mhm.
Previous board I served on, we did a summary like this, and it captured the essence of everything we
Then it sounds
discussed
good.
without
Yeah.
being verbatim.
Then I'm okay, as long as it's not too brief. We
Yeah.
wanna know what was discussed.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Good idea.
So now, Nancy,
okay.
you're on.
Okay, the profit and loss statement versus the actual for the first 2 months of the year.
Yeah.
I'll just talk about the few items that are kind of out of whack
Yeah.
at this point in
Nancy,
time.
the one that you sent out earlier, just for October,
Mhm.
so this is both October and November?
This is October and November. This is fiscal year through the end of
So
November.
this supersedes,
Each month,
October
each
one.
month will include up to that year to date.
okay.
So, okay, the first item, and I'll save the fire impact fees till I'm done because you've got that as a separate item. Our interest on investments is kind of low. It's only at 21% of what it's, should be at this point in time. Without talking to Stephen Bloom, I'm not sure why, but my guess would be that some of the CDs we have might only post interest quarterly. And if it doesn't show up in December, then I'll follow up with Stephen to find out why our interest is so low. The second item are the annuals. We're way above budget, but that's to be expected because they're planned at twice a year, so the way the budget is, the portion we show for the current budget is through this point in the fiscal year. So we've only got 2 months, and since annuals are planted every 6 months, it's gonna take us 6 months to catch up and get to where we should be, and then they'll plant more again. So we're okay on that. The third one is the gate repairs and maintenance, and we talked a little bit about that last month, that they seem to be high, and we're way over budget. Right now, we should have only had about $800 spent on that, and we're pretty much $4,000. I haven't seen any reimbursement yet, and we had talked about when they're reimbursed from insurance companies, but I haven't seen any reimbursements yet. Do you know if we've gotten any?
Nothing recently. I know there has some limit. I will follow up and see why you
Okay.
haven't received what we received.
Okay, because we had that one really large repair where they actually ran over the,
The $3,000 one.
yeah, and
We
you don't,
haven't gotten that.
we haven't gotten reimbursed for that yet.
No,
So,
we've gotten reimbursed. You didn't get anything on it?
no, we haven't gotten anything on it.
Okay.
No.
I'll make sure you get it.
Okay, because we should be crediting back to the CDD so that they're not receiving payment for it twice. Okay, the next item would be let me see,
Neighborhood monument
the
maintenance.
neighborhood monument maintenance. And when Sarah and I worked on the budget last year, she had suggested that we move power washing into a separate category, which we did. So there's a separate line item in the budget for it. However, it's not being billed that way. They're still splitting it up among all the accounts. So a lot of that money is the power washing, which is on a separate line item. I think I'm gonna wait till all of the power washing is in, and I'll probably do a drill into removing all those into that account, so we can see how it fits in with our budget. The next one that's way over is the annuals again. Just, second account for annuals. So that's the same thing. That'll catch up as we go through the year. And then the last one that's really major is the plant replacements. And that's because those trees we replaced at the front entrance, or down along the wall, tree line, that we got approved for last year's budget, we didn't get the second half of the bill until this year, so it's showing up in this year's budget. And that was like 18,000, I think. I asked Stephen about that, and he said, yes, it was part of last year's approval, but it'll remain here as an expense.
Okay.
So that's just
So
gonna be,
that'll just be a constant, we'll be behind by that the
we'll
entire
always,
year.
will always be,
Mhm.
that account's always gonna show
Well,
over.
But Nancy will have that 18,000 is some of that money that,
Yeah, because we've got so much money from the prior years, I think that's why he didn't feel that he needed to move it into that year, because the expense actually got paid in this fiscal year. So, and then, looking at where we are, as far as the budget through this point in the year, when you look at the statements we receive from Severn Trent every year, it actually, every month rather, it actually shows what our HOA agreement line is, and that's, everything that we approve is on that one line. And right now, we should be at about 16.67% of the budget, and we're at 14.5 in actual expenses. So we're about 2 percentage points below.
Where are you?
Yeah.
It's not on there, it's on the financial statements that Severn Trent prepares. It just gives me where we are as a total percentage of the budget. It doesn't break it down by line item, just our entire HOA portion of the budget. We should be at about 16.5%, we're only at 14.5. So we're a little under expenses right now, including.
That's on expenses now.
On expenses, and that includes the additional 18,000
Mhm.
that we've spent.
what that doesn't include is the water stuff.
Correct.
Pond stuff.
Right, right, the ponds are not part of that budget,
Right.
no. No, the HOA line, and I actually sent Stephen an email about this just recently, because I tried to reconcile my expenses to his budget, and they're never the same. But he tells me the only thing on that HOA line is what we send him, and his line is always a little less than ours, and I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's the way they code, or when they're putting things in, but I just figured October should be real simple. Our 2 sets of invoices I received from Jason should match exactly to his, and they were a little bit less, and I don't know why that is. But he says that's the only thing in that line, everything we sent. So, Then the fire impact fees. I asked them how that was done. We have, right now, after what they sold through the end of October, I think, we had $1,104,795 left in fire impact fees to sell. They're discounted, and then there's a commission paid, and as an example, what we sold in October was $105,000 worth of them, and we received $63,000 after all the discounts and commission paid. So following that through, we probably have another $600,000 of funds coming in over time from the sale of fire impact fees.
We had approved the sale of those at a discount.
Right.
Mhm. And then plus the commission to
Right.
the realty company that's selling them.
Yeah, and the board approved it.
Yes,
Yeah.
so that was
Yeah.
all approved.
So-
Okay.
Otherwise, that money, I guess, would just go to waste. It would just sit there if we didn't
Yeah.
Oh,
sell
yeah,
them.
yeah,
If you didn't
So-
use.
Was use it or lose it.
Mhm.
yeah.
Nancy, one question. I looked at where it talked about the passes and stickers for the cars and stuff. I know that Castle is charging $10 for the stickers.
Mhm.
Are we seeing that show up net to something here?
What Sarah had told me is that they just kind of netted out, that the expenses, so I don't see.
I'd like to see it. I'd
Okay.
like to have us see it,
Okay.
so we know.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
know
what do
how
they,
you're-
what do they net it out with?
The expenses of purchasing the passes, I
Oh,
think.
purchasing.
You know, the barcodes and that.
Rather than seeing the gross amount, I'd like to see the, you know,
Okay.
breakdown.
Jason, can you get that information?
What would you like to add?
Okay,
Cost of the barcodes?
well, you know how if you have more, once you get your first two, you have to pay for additional ones after that?
After the first three.
First three, excuse me. A breakdown of how much income we're receiving for that versus the expenses on it.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you have an age on the three? Let's say somebody's been here 10, 12 years.
There's nothing in place for that right now.
They know, 'cause we got one of the first barcodes, and we now traded, and I paid,
You had to pay for
I
it.
paid a couple weeks ago for the third one, for the fourth one. So they know.
They know.
They got me.
And is that something we need to address at some point in time? That
Everybody's gonna be paying for it
everybody's
eventually.
gonna be paying for it eventually, and is
Yeah.
it something maybe after 5 years or so, you get to start over again or something?
I don't think so.
You don't think that's ever
But-
gonna happen?
But it's not just the however many barcodes you're entitled to, but people who are renters, people who, you know, they all pay.
They all pay for a
the
barcode
$10
too,
a
yeah.
barcode and stuff
Yeah.
too, so.
Yeah,
That should bring in
okay.
some income.
And I understood what they were talking about when she said it'll be $10. The guy ahead of me, she had to explain that,
Mhm.
because I guess he hit the same wall that I had hit, so.
Okay. And maybe that needs to be in a newsletter at some point in time, reminding people that after 3, that there would be a charge?
Jason,
Yeah, I mean, that's something we explain to people all the time, but I can certainly put something in the email.
okay. Plan to do that.
Okay.
Any other questions of Nancy? I guess we started off with $1.5 million on the fire impact fees, is that right? $1,510,000?
Um,
And so we are chipping away at that.
Yeah.
That was the gross amount.
Yeah, we had, yeah, exactly, 1,510,505 was the beginning
Right.
balance of it.
Okay. All right, no further questions of Nancy. Let's move on to the Association and Securitas report. And the first thing we have is the Dwelling Live mailing. Jason, would you come forward, please, and kind of give us an idea what the schedule is for that? Because the schedule's been revised a couple of times. And I'm asking, and also, and Bob too, and we're asking because of the minutes that you say who you are, give your name and who you're representing so that can go into the minutes.
Certainly, I'm Jason Olson, I'm the property manager for the Master Association with Castle Group.
Okay.
Bob French with Securitas.
So I think maybe if you could review again what the current schedule we're on for the Going Live letter.
We good to go with the one
Yep.
you gave me? Okay. Okay, so as it stands right now, the current live target date is February 6th.
That's for the letters to go out.
No, that's to go live.
Go live, so you're.
Yes. The letters are scheduled to go to production on Monday, which is when we're supposed to receive the electronic file, which will have all the registration codes, allowing 2 weeks for production to get them out and into the mail by the 30th, and then going live on the 6th.
Right.
That is the current
So
plan
people will
schedule.
get them a few days before
Correct.
we actually go live.
Mhm.
I think you've all received the package of what we finally decided. We discussed this at the last meeting as to what would be in the package. The letter's been revised a couple of times. Jan took the lead on that. And so I think we should be ready to go, unless anybody has any problem.
The only question that I had when I looked at the last email that I got with everything, it still shows on the samples. I didn't go through to see how many names it showed, but it showed, you know,
Yeah, the sample should just be the one page.
should just be the one
That's just
page.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
a multiple
yeah.
listing of,
There's
they're
not-
just
It's
gonna
only
get
one
one
page.
page.
They're just-
Okay, good.
They're just gonna get one page, and we'll have their name on it. These are
Correct.
sample
It'll have
names.
their individual name.
Yeah, because
and
that still
registration
showed
code.
a
Yeah.
whole
Yeah, I know,
universe.
they all
Yeah.
came together.
Yeah.
Let me just add to that a little bit. We had a community recently send them out electronically, believe it or not. That they were able to do it, and their success rate was actually very poor. The participation levels weren't where they needed to be, so I think we're on the right road by doing it this way. We're gonna get a lot more participation in our resident base than we perhaps would have done if we did it any other way. Definitely agree with that. We're all set up. I don't think, one thing that Jason is gonna do prior to that, I'm trying to help him get that together, send out some emails prior, some email blasts, to prepare the residents for this is coming, to look for it, to be excited about it, to kind of give them some thought process behind it. So when it does arrive, it's meaningful, it's actionable. I think it's important.
For whatever good it will do, I spoke about this at the President's Council meeting this morning, told them that we were getting these out, Jason, you were there, and encouraging the presidents to encourage that
Exactly.
we need to get as much participation as possible. I also indicated that we will be doing a lot more communicating and educating on this thing. And there was a question about whether we're gonna have a seminar, as we've had them for the prior system. And I indicated that would probably be part of the process, that we'll be offering training sessions for people who want to be trained.
Plus,
Yeah.
Bob is gonna be on the.
The Alliance.
And Carol Brocky mentioned that at the meeting as well.
Exactly, so the Alliance meeting, so we're on the same page, is Thursday, February 2nd at 3:30, is that
Right,
correct?
That's correct,
Yes,
Okay.
that's correct.
And what's the expectation in that particular meeting? Is it kind of an overview of the program?
Yes.
Kind of what it does, Q&A, that type of thing? Is
Yes,
that right?
exactly,
Okay.
and, you know, you're limited in time, Carol, I guess, which, 10 minutes? Did you
Yeah, I think
take?
it was 10 minutes, yeah.
So you want to really cover the highlights, but I think the important thing is encouraging people to participate, that this will be very helpful to us and facilitate the access at the front gate. That it's important that people start to participate, because the participation rate in the capture system was pretty low.
Yes.
And so we need to get that rate up a lot higher.
Exactly, that's what I'm thinking. I was in a community just recently that the participation levels were low, and I can tell you that I was surprised at actually working the gate, how it slowed down the officers, because the resident did not call in the vendor or the guest. So we had to make the phone call, and some days make another phone call, then finally get approval,
Yeah.
and then put the information in the system, print the pass. Where they've called in advance or had put the information in the system prior, it was literally click, 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 give them a pass.
I think
That's
that
a
would be a
good
good
way.
example,
Yeah.
Bob,
Yeah.
for you to give at the meeting.
Yep.
Because, you know, I just make general comments about the fact that it would help us, but if you could explain that to people as to how it helps us and how much difference it makes.
Exactly, and then we can then expedite the gate, expedite the guests, alleviate some of that patrol time back into the community. There's a lot of benefits for us doing this.
Good.
So I
Absolutely.
looked at the sample program you sent me, and it's really straightforward and simple.
Exactly.
I mean, it's not complicated in
No.
any way, shape, or form. Actually, not that much different than Capture.
Exactly.
I would recommend that we put something in the February newsletter about it as well, just to keep, promoting it.
Yeah.
You know, how we get the monthly newsletters?
Yeah.
Weekly, right?
Well, no, we get the Pelican Preserve newsletter.
Oh.
It's like 12 pages
That-
long. Who
yeah,
does
That
that?
doesn't come
That-
from.
that-
That's
That's from,
Terry.
that's, huh?
That's
Yeah, that's from
Terry.
WCI.
Oh.
But I think they would do it.
The town
Well,
center sure
I
would
think
do
they
it.
should do it,
Yeah.
because the more we get the word out there, I'm hoping
I
that the more
agree.
participation would have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jan, would you follow up with Terry Lalio?
Terry Lalio.
Yeah,
Pull up his names.
it's Carla's boss.
I know who that is.
Yeah.
Now that
There
you
you
said
go.
that, thank you.
Okay.
Getting there.
So,
And,
I can't believe there's somebody that didn't know Terry. Terry knows everybody.
Right.
I know
knows
Terry by her
everybody.
first name, not the last name threw me off. I'll ask her.
yeah.
Phil,
I'm gonna do
at
it.
this morning's meeting, you mentioned, and we talked about it at this meeting,
Just proof
that
and adjust it.
there might be a way of letting some of like the vendors and that come in through the,
That's the next item on the list.
okay, I'll wait and then I'll make my comment.
Yeah, yeah, because we're gonna, that's exactly what we're gonna talk about, Nancy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is updating that stuff, so. So any other questions on the mailing? And there will be pre-publicity, and Jan's gonna try and get something in the monthly newsletter, and obviously, Jason, you will continue in your weekly newsletters, I'm sure.
My plan is the first one to go in tomorrow
Mhm.
and be in there every week up
Yep.
until the launch.
Okay.
One question regarding old information that's in Capture now. Will
Mhm.
that get transferred to the new without the people
That's
calling
correct.
in?
That's
All right, it will
correct.
get transferred.
That's correct. Absolutely. Everything that's in capsule will go into Dwelling Lab.
We can't put a different birth date in then?
Now, hopefully everybody go, no, you can't, unfortunately. But hopefully everyone will go in and then update whatever information we do have. That would be helpful.
That's important, that
That's
the update.
good.
Yes.
You should mention that,
Yeah, we need to probably put it, it's great, it's in there, go in there, update that information for permanent guests.
confirm and update if necessary, yeah.
Yep.
It'd be great.
Okay?
Anything else on that issue? Bob, Jason? any-
No?
Okay.
We're ready.
Well, let's turn to a closely related issue, which has to do with the work that Ron did, and I think you all have copies of it, Ron and Jason and Bob, on how we're gonna be handling temporary visitors and folks of that sort.
Whole host of things.
Right, exactly. And Ron, I think as you saw, I had a number of questions. And Bob and Jason, I think you saw my questions. The first one had to do with whether we can issue restricted stickers instead of passes to some of these people, so they can use the visitor, or the resident gate. Could we do it, and would it speed things up?
Yes,
The
you could,
basic answer
yes,
is yes.
yes, you
We
could
talked
do
about
it. It's
that.
just a barcode facilitating to a common vendor or a relative of a resident. I have a community that they actually issue them to relatives of the community, the regular relatives that visit. They get a barcode. And we register that information, of course, getting all the information. So then they can go in. And you can restrict the times in the system. For example, a vendor may not be allowed to be here after 5 o'clock or allowed on a Sunday, but they're allowed during the regular business times to go through that gate. I recommend if you're gonna do that, you record that information with as much information as possible and also get a fee for it, meaning charge them for it.
Oh, absolutely.
That convenience is just as important to them as it is to us, especially for a vendor. If they can get in and out quickly and expedite it, they will do that. So I suggest, you charge a fee and have them register their vehicles and their insurance and their registration for X number of vehicles, apply them to the vehicles and collect X number of dollars per vehicle per year. That would help. And maybe I think we talked about this last time. One thing we're gonna do, once we get started, we can go back and look at what common vendors are visiting the property. And we can do a study on that and say, okay, XYZ landscape or XY pool company is coming in here every single day. Let's give them a call and let's transfer them over. You can make it a requirement, or you can make it optional. Another community of mine does it optional, and one makes it a requirement. I have two different versions of it.
That question, by the way, came up at the president's meeting, whether there was an automated way of seeing how many how frequently people use the
Yep.
gate.
Yep.
And that the system can provide that kind of information.
Absolutely, absolutely. Dwelling Live will keep a list of every vendor that's been registered into the community on someone's permanent guest list. So we can look at the vendor list on the admin side and look at every vendor A through Z. That's important just in case you have a vendor you may need to address in the community for speeding perhaps, and you notice that, John Doe uses them and Mr. Smith uses them, and you may need to make a phone call to them or the vendor and let them know that we need to correct this problem.
Now, just a quick question. If I update my list when we do the other thing, and I take somebody off the list, as soon as I take them off the list, their pass is no good, somebody goes in and cancels their pass?
Now, what will happen is, I brought a sample of the pass here with me, is that we're gonna scan that pass when they come in. We're gonna scan that barcode there. It'll tell me if it's valid or not valid. If you delete them out of the system, it comes invalid. Then I go, whoops, this isn't valid.
Like if I fire my
Yeah.
whoever,
If pool company or
Pool
maid
company
or
or
whoever.
like- Yeah.
Well, let's get into other issues,
Yes.
but you have to be careful if there's someone, say a pool company, who's coming in to visit several people. You may take them off of your list, but they're still on several other folks' lists.
Well, that was really
Okay.
one of the
So that's-
questions.
That's one issue. Another,
Yes.
just to get back to the beginning, if you take an individual person off of your list, and you're the only one who has that person on the list, they will stop them at the gate, because it'll be invalid. And they'll say, okay, now why are you here? Are you coming to visit you? They'll end up having to contact you, and they won't let them in unless
You
you
approve
agree
it.
to that. But it's another issue, if it's a vendor, pool company, cleaning service, or whatever, that has multiple customers that they're seeing. You're just one of many who would eliminate.
Yeah, they may say they go into black residence and they go to Jones's. They go into black and then they go over to your house after you fire them, they're showing up. That could be a problem.
Yeah.
That's kind of a big conundrum in a lot of the communities.
I don't know how you control that.
It's very, very difficult.
Yeah.
You can put some controls in where we can ask them all the locations they're going in a given day, which ones are you going to today? A lot of them may have passes for every location. Give me the passes you're going to today, and let me scan those. We could do that too. So we have one for each location.
Think about the complications of the gate.
It's hard.
That's
It's hard.
horrible.
Really hard one. So, and that was one of the things I put down on my questions, and it was one that Trudy Fletcher had brought up at one of our president's meetings. So if we have a vendor who serves multiple clients, is there one input for that vendor, or do they get put in by all of the clients?
No, typically, each resident needs to put that vendor in,
Okay.
okay? So when the vendor comes in, they need to let me know which community or which location they're servicing, so I can get them a pass for it. Like I said, a lot of times they'll just tell me they're servicing the Joneses and then go to the Smiths. But I rather, because of the email notification and text notification, it's important for us to say, hey, give me the passes. Over time, I think we can give them a pass for every single address they have, but they need to give me the actual passes that are going to on that day. You ever see a vendor, they have all these passes up on their dashboard. I mean, they got 30, 40 of them like loaded. If you ever look in a parking lot, you'll see them. It's interesting. So it's important that we try to control that.
So if 5 different people have the same vendor, and they put them into the system, they'll get 5 passes?
Well, no, we can print 5 passes for them if they give me each address they're going to for that day. And remember, they can get, if they're a regular permanent contractor, I can print one out for 6 months. So we can have it, and every time they come in, they should give me the 2 or 3 they're going to, and I'll just scan them in, it'll show them entered.
Technically, question. you really can't prevent them from going to other homes once they get in.
No,
So what's the point of getting multiple passes?
no, that's kind of the challenge.
Part of the issue.
But we can, but my concern is the email notification and the text notification, because when they go to Jones's and they drop over to Smith's, then the Joneses, they don't go to the Joneses, they go to the Smith's, then they're saying, you know, where's my pool guy today? Well, I don't know where he went. Well, he was there, but he didn't give us the right pass to confirm him at entry.
So let's just go back to a case. Let's talk about a pool service that visits a half a dozen customers.
Mhm.
So let's say 5 of the 6 customers put them in the system.
Yeah.
Because not everybody's gonna do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
True.
So how does the system react to that in terms of the pass or passes that vendor gets? Will they get 1 pass that's restricted, as we've indicated here, or is he gonna get 5? Physically 5 passes?
No, there should be a pass technically for each address that he services.
Right.
Um,
Is that actually what's gonna happen? He's gonna end up with 5 passes?
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, if he comes in, if he services one, he can ask for one for this address and one for this address and one for this address, and we'll provide it
Let's
for
say
him.
he asks for it. I'm the
Okay.
resident, and I put Johnny Smith Pool Service in. Jan does the same
Yep.
thing. You know, and we say, yeah, he comes every Thursday, we think, you know, who knows?
Right.
Sometimes they come
I know
every
when my
week.
pool guy comes.
Yeah, sometimes, but
Yeah,
sometimes
sometimes
they'll
they switch
miss
a
it
little
for
bit.
whatever reason. They come on a different day. So are they gonna get 2 passes or physically multiple passes based on what the resident has put in? That's what I'm asking. Each of those vendors, are they gonna get multiple passes?
If they provide us the address in
When
which
you
it's,
say they,
the vendor
vendor.
would have to do that,
And when
correct?
does he do that?
When he comes into the gate, yeah.
I'm a little concerned about that
I don't
many
know how that works.
passes. How many passes being out there, because, if I'm Johnny's Pool Company,
Yeah.
and I've got 6 passes, well, I'm gonna say I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna visit Ron's house. What about my buddy just borrowing one of mine and,
No, because the procedure should be, when we check the pass or scan the pass, we have a driver's license in hand.
okay,
Yeah. So
Okay.
There's
There's
a
a
connection
check
there.
Yeah,
When-
we gotta get in the habit of driver's license pass in hand. That's the most efficient way of doing it. You go up, you look at it, John Doe, scan it, valid, give it right back. 2-second transaction.
Can a pass have multiple addresses?
No,
Ah.
no.
So
I think
basically,
some of these vendors have like 100 people they see every
Oh.
week.
Oh, it could be.
At least,
Yeah,
yeah.
in
At
this
least.
community, yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah, I guess no one system's gonna work, but one concern we had in the past was somebody came in legitimately, came to my door, I don't know, some kind of a government survey, I don't
Yeah.
remember the particulars. But then after they left me, and I, in good faith, thought they were leaving the community, then they just started wandering around knocking on doors.
Soliciting,
Right.
yep.
Now, if we had a pass that identified every location that they should have access to, and it just so happened that the security rolled up to it, looked at their pass, said, what are you doing here in Trieste? You're supposed to be in Monticello.
Sure, sure.
But I don't know that one
but does
size is gonna
security ever
fit
do
all.
that?
Well,
I
they may or
don't-
may not, but there's,
Right.
I
in
don't
theory,
think
they
they
could.
do.
They could, yeah.
In theory, they could.
So I just have a comment about having the vendors coming in through the residence gate, and I know maybe the benefits outweigh this, but sometimes when I come in, the residence gate line is longer than the other one.
Visitor
So if
gate.
we start letting the vendors use the resident lane,
Yeah, I'm not. a
you know,
big
that
fan
could
of
get
Do
to
you,
be,
yeah,
pretty
I
big
put that
irritation.
out there. Do you recommend that we do that?
Well, you do have a barcode reader in the visitor lane as well, so they could,
They could
you know,
go-
pick
they
the
could go in
lane
that lane.
and go that way.
They go
I-
either way.
I'm with
Get rid of the
Nancy.
traffic.
I've had to wait several minutes. Where the visitor line is 3 or 4 deep, and that takes a little while for those vehicles to go through.
Yeah.
But the residence line is 8 or 9, it takes 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, 10 minutes doesn't sound like a lot, but it's like,
Yeah, and now if
But
you
on the-
have
on
10
the other
vendors
hand-
in that lane, now you're gonna have a
Yeah.
really long
If they're
line.
repeated vendors and they have the barcode, why not use that lane? I mean, most people in the visitor lane are gonna be there for quite a while.
Yeah,
There's a lot of interaction. I know I can scoot through with my barcode, and I decide at the very last minute which lane.
We all
I
do
do
that.
too.
But if we took,
yeah,
if
yeah,
we took
yeah,
the
yeah. You ain't gonna do
people
it
out
that
of
fast,
the
yeah.
visitor lane
We could do a
and
test
allowed
on
them
it.
with a barcode
Yeah.
to use the trap gate lane, that to me seems that would be more efficient for all
Yeah.
of us. Just an opinion.
Yeah.
because that doesn't require interaction with the guard.
But the
And
lane's
the
already
visitor
getting
lane
so
does.
long.
It
Well,
optimizes the whole system then.
You know, it may be
Who
long
gets in
because
what lane.
we're sending so many visitors that come in every week to the visitor lane, and that takes a lot longer than
Yeah.
just a barcode lane.
Yeah.
But that,
I
that
don't
doesn't
know.
affect my resident lane. If the visitor lane is long, it doesn't affect my resident.
Oh, but it
lane.
could. It could, because if the visitors, the regular vendors are coming in and have the barcode to come in the resident lane, there'll be less traffic in the visitor lane. If we keep that empty, whenever the barcode lane is tied up, they can scoot over into the visitor
And
side.
don't forget, there are
Which is what we do.
some trucks that can't go through.
There's
Physically
some,
can't go
yes.
through.
And
There's
they
some.
have to go through.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's some.
Yeah, it seems to me that no system is perfect, but that it would be better if more people had passes that.
Automated, yes.
That are automated. than
But they
having-
could still go through the visitor lane with that automated pass.
Yes.
Oh, yes, right,
absolutely.
exactly.
If there's nobody there.
Instead of giving them our
Just like
lane.
we
That's
do.
right.
Yeah.
Just like we do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that they would be like a resident at that point.
I recommend once we put the system in, that if we can improve the participation levels considerably, or at least by 50%, and we automate the system, we're gonna speed that line up significantly.
Yes.
And then if we can then decide to go, if we go to automate some of the vendors, they can go in the other lane and get through fairly quickly as well, so.
Good idea.
I,
So you would,
okay,
you
that
would,
makes
you
sense.
would,
I agree with
you
you.
would delay automating the vendors until.
For a while.
I think we
I
get the,
agree.
let's
So
get the
let's get it up
basics.
and running.
Yeah, let's get up and
Yeah.
going, and then we'll improve some efficiencies that way by itself. And then we can assess the barcodes for the vendors and look at the wait times, that kind of thing.
well, and I think that'll give us the chance to see what participation percentage we have.
Right.
And Bob said, made a very good point, there's, one size isn't gonna fit all.
Right.
But if there's a way to simplify, I mean, keep it simple somehow, the KISS
Yeah.
principle.
Yeah.
For the vendors in the future,
Yeah.
then that would be ideal, and I think we can all put our thinking caps on for that. And-
So I have one more question about
Mhm.
access. The contractors are not supposed to be coming in the front gate, the construction.
The
and they
construction
still are. They
contractors,
still are.
correct.
They still are.
Yeah. and
Like the heavy
like
trucks, the.
Tuesday morning, I took a picture of one, he came up from Pelican Preserve Boulevard, up Cypress Grove, made a left turn onto Matarita where it says no construction traffic, with a huge long truck with his little tractor sitting on the back of it. They're still coming in the front gate. Why are they letting them in up front?
Well, what's gonna happen is, we have to let them in to turn them around, unfortunately, but we do need to turn them around. They do not need to be going to the front gate. They come there because of the fault of the GPF, or whatever reason, they come in that gate.
They don't want to deal with 82 is what a
Yeah,
lot of it
they
is.
probably, but
But
we
that's not a
have to make
problem.
conscious effort to make sure we're turning them around. They go through. Now, if they go directly through, because sometimes they'll do that, they'll just run through the gate and go on their way, then we have to send a patrol person behind them and go say, you cannot do that with the name of your company, do an incident report, and we have to contact them.
And we need to do that, because
Yeah.
unless we start stopping them, they're gonna keep coming through. And I walk early every morning. I'm out walking starting at 6 o'clock. And I would say most days when I'm out walking, I see a truck that's coming through the front gate.
Is
You
it-
have a legal right to stop anybody from coming in that gate?
Well, they have a construction entrance. We can tell them to go to.
The short answer is no.
The short answer is no, but we can do it.
we can-
We can do it.
We can
We have
filter,
leverage over suppliers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
especially on the instruction. I think, yeah,
Well,
we can,
supposedly WCI has given instructions to all of the contractors to use the construction gate.
right.
Yeah, I
And
know
in
it.
theory, there's a consequence if they don't follow those rules.
Right.
If we let WC not, I know who's doing it.
Yeah.
These
And
aren't
if the key is the
WC.
identification, such and such Johnny Smith construction vehicle came in, you let them know about it, they can follow up. It's that consequence.
Yeah, it's
Follow
important
up.
that I
Make
give
sure
them
they
that
know
information, though,
exactly
you
who
know.
it is
And
that's
maybe
doing
you
it.
can- they can tell them
That's
that at front
important.
gate, you need to turn around, because if you don't.
I'm
your
reporting it to
company will be
WCI.
Yeah, we're
reported
doing
to
Right.
WCI.
I'm
Fixing
not
the
sure,
problem.
I don't know if you saw them, I've not seen the WCI contractors, construction contractors, but I've seen pole building contractors with humongous trailers come in and come right down Matarita
Mhm.
several times a week
Yeah.
for 5 or 6 months. And it's ruining our roads.
Yeah.
It's gonna destroy them, and they were just paved.
Yeah.
Well, I think we all agree that we need to do something to tighten that up.
Hey, I'll address that ASAP, thank you.
Let me go back
I was gonna
to
say,
this.
but I'd like to go
Real
back to
quick.
Ron's.
If you look at the list of the restrictions that you all should have a copy of.
Right.
Yeah, the first one, very simple, if you have family or friends on your list, they're gonna get a 6-month pass, unrestricted, done, okay? The next category is recurring vendors, that they will be restricted to essentially daytime hours, 7 AM to 6 PM, Monday through Saturday, no Sundays, okay? And that's one thing for you guys, you know, if you wanna talk about that. Of course, an individual homeowner, if they want one of these guys to show up on Sunday or 9 o'clock at night, they can always arrange for that. But a normal, you know, house cleaning person that you put in, they're coming Thursday, they're gonna be restricted to these hours.
I think the docs that we all signed originally say no Sunday.
Oh, yeah,
Vendors.
yeah.
So-
But that's necessarily being controlled that way.
Right.
That's why this, you know, when they get one of these recurring passes, they're not gonna be allowed to come in on Sundays. They'll be stopped at the gate.
Well, they all should be stopped at the gate unless it's an emergency.
Exactly right, but the pass will, when they scan it on a Sunday, will say no entry. Or remind the guard, you can't, oh, you're a contractor, you can't come in, you know?
Now, we are a couple of exceptions to that we put in there, that are very specific to home watch services, especially during the, you know, the summer season.
Sure.
And home health care services. We don't want to prevent any nurse
Nope.
from being able to come in whenever they need to come in, you know, that type of thing. Okay. Tenants, you know, that's.
Ron,
Yeah.
the exceptions to recurring vendors,
Right.
how about the big vendors? You know, the guys who are in here all the time, home tech. And,
Well, that's the question. Do we want to let them in
Yeah.
for normal business, not emergencies
Yeah.
or whatever, but for normal business in hours other than what we've listed here? I mean, what do you
Yeah.
guys think? Should they be allowed to come
I
in
see.
at
So
8
they-
AM at night?
So they could just be put in the system by individual.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Oh, absolutely.
On the other hand,
You know,
if
if
you're,
Comcast has to come in, you know, they can come in whenever they need to come in, you know.
on the
or
other
home
hand,
tech
if
or whomever.
it's, you know, the middle of August and it's, home tech can only come at 9 o'clock at night and the air conditioning's been out all day,
Well, emergencies.
that would be
That's,
something.
that's fine.
Oh, absolutely.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
Oh, yeah. yeah.
Okay.
That's why we, like, home watch services, we didn't want to restrict those guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
You know.
So keep going, Ron.
Sure, okay. Tenants, if you have a tenant that's only gonna be here, say, for a month, that lease says it's a month, when they check in, they go and check in through Castle, and they get a pass that's good for that month, period, whatever the lease says. If it's a 2-month lease, they get a 2-month pass, 3-month lease, they get a 3-month pass. They don't get any unrestricted that they can use forever. So it's restricted to the length of the lease. Non-resident golf club members, okay, they get an unrestricted pass. Now, that list is updated by the golf club every year, and that information is provided to Securitas, so they can update that list. So if there's a non-resident member of the club who doesn't re-up, that pass will be withdrawn and will be non-usable. Okay, so it is covered, okay? Then we have, you guys thought this made sense, for golf club and town center vendors. Apparently, there's a need that they be allowed to come in on Sundays. So they're just restricted during the daily hours, but they can't come in on Sundays. Because that's, you guys indicated that was important, that they'd be allowed to do that.
I don't know if they want to eat and drink.
Well, you gotta have priorities, right?
Yes.
The management companies for the HOAs, they basically get an unrestricted access, you know. And then all the employees, okay, that work here, all right? Golf club, master association, sales office, castle, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Generally, they get unrestricted passes. The actual restriction's gonna be worked out with the master association. You know, if they wanna be able to restrict some of those folks to certain hours or certain days, they're gonna work out those specifics there. But in general, employees will have unrestricted access.
On one I didn't see on here is the CDD Board of Supervisors and the CDD
I've got them down there in the last sentence,
Last
the
one,
last,
GSCDD.
last one.
Yep.
GSCDD.
Next page.
Utility,
General, Government Emergency Utility
Yep.
Delivery
Okay.
Yeah, it's-
Service, GSCDD is the down.
Oh, yeah, we don't want.
I'm just
now,
good.
now, do they,
So no restrictions.
no restrictions, but they actually have to get a pass?
Well,
Yes.
No, actually-
Oh, they can come in.
They will, as long as they're in a marked vehicle.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
But if
if
they're not-
somebody comes in
Okay.
and says, I'm an employee of the CDD and I'm coming in here, well, who are you exactly and why are
Right.
you coming in? And you go
Exactly
through the
right.
whole
Well, that's like the
routine.
trash trucks, you don't.
Yeah,
need-
exactly
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, but if they're in a marked vehicle, same thing with
CDD, yeah.
utilities. You
Yeah.
know, Comcast guy comes in, he's marked, fine, but sometimes they hire outside
Subcontractors.
contractors. It's an unmarked
And we
vehicle, they're
scan
gonna be checked in and get license plates and all that kind of,
But I
driver's
thought,
license
I
information,
thought
et cetera.
early on when we first did this, then in talking with Tony, for instance, that the individual board members who would not be driving a car or vehicle, or if Tony Perez wanted to come, or whoever is running Severn Trent now wanted to come in, they would not be in something with a logoed vehicle, but they should be able to have
Sure.
unrestricted
But,
access.
I mean, Bill, maybe you can answer this question. You guys have identification that identifies you as a supervisor for the
Yes.
CDD?
Okay, bingo.
Yeah, that'll work.
That's why
Show your ID.
GSCDD, if they come in and say, here's my ID and I'm a supervisor and I wanna come in and do something,
Okay.
in they come.
Okay.
They have to stop, obviously, through the visitor section.
Okay.
Because they don't
With
have the
their ID.
barcode.
But they should let them right in?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, because I am.
As long as they can identify
I
themselves
haven't
as
had the
being a.
supervisor come
sup-
and visit me next Tuesday. I don't know
I
about that.
I just have one
Well, this
question.
is
Yeah,
for
tell
you,
them, show
don't
them.
tell the gate that he's coming.
We won't.
See what they do.
One question.
I'm sorry.
Why do we have a 6-month restriction for family and friends?
It's an automatic renewal, if I remember. The pass will be for 6 months.
Currently,
But
mine's in
it's
forever.
automatically renewed, am I correct?
Yeah, we can set limits on the passes, the physical passes. But it's important that, we just like to, update them every 6 months.
What had happened in the past was, I lived there, I gave my family passes,
Me
guest
too.
passes, I moved,
Oh.
they still got the
have a
passes.
pass.
They're still coming into the tennis, pickleball.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
This refreshes the rolls.
Yeah,
So if
exactly
they're not
right.
in the system, they will.
7 minutes are
And
better than
this,
one.
this has happened.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure it
absolutely.
has.
Yes, it has happened.
Yes.
I had
Okay.
a
Yeah.
question related to that. People who have a 6-month pass for their families
Mm-hmm.
are unlikely to remember that they have it. Do we send them reminders, or they just have to, when their family member finally gets stopped?
Yeah,
coming
when
in?
the pass doesn't work.
When it
They'll
doesn't
be on the
work,
permanent
well,
guest list.
If they haven't put them in their system, they
Right.
get stopped.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, if they're on the permanent guest list, I'm just gonna reissue a pass, that's all.
Yeah.
If they're not on the permanent guest list, they get a phone call.
Yeah.
That's all that is.
Okay.
Okay, we have a bridge group that has outside people coming, as an example, every Monday in 3 months of the year. Under what type of a pass would they ask for?
Friends.
Family and
Would
friends.
they all be friends of, well, I would think the easiest thing at the gate would be, because not all of them come every week, just say you're coming in for the bridge group. If it's a known entity that this function is gonna occur every Monday from 1 to 4,
And the-
Who would-
3
who
months a
would-
year.
But who would notify them that that's the case?
Well, they'd be notified of the event, not the individual
Well,
day.
that's what I'm trying to
Exactly.
say.
That
Who does
changes.
that?
Right.
Well, then,
That the bridge
whoever
group-
sponsors it would be incumbent upon them to tell them.
Yeah.
But the methodology be, if you have this kind of a thing, or a knitting circle, and you got a bunch of people coming in, or anything, you just tell
Yeah.
them, and they would know that for 1 day a week, in certain number of hours, anyone that says they're coming for that would be accepted.
There's a feature in Dwelling Live that they can go ahead and upload a list or an event or
Okay.
a party list and say, I'm doing my knitting club on Tuesday, here's all my folks.
Well, even if
And-
you don't know the folks.
Right, yeah,
That's
you
the
could
point.
still, yeah, you can still
Okay.
register with
And the
us.
same thing with the vendors that come for our farmer's market, because it's a seasonal activity, and it's gonna change, if they're making money, they'll keep going, if they're not, they drop off, but that would be
They
the same
change.
sort of thing. That
I
if
don't
somebody
remember.
shows up on a Monday between 9 and 12, It
Yeah,
says
I
that's
would-
where they're going,
In that case, I would expect the town center would have notified.
Usually-
That, oh, by the way.
of the event, but
Of the
probably
event.
not the
There's
participants.
this event and expect.
Why shouldn't they know
Eight
the
or nine
should
participants?
notify.
They may not know all the participants, right?
Yeah, they know all the participants.
They damn well do.
Okay, I
Yeah.
don't know that they do, but
They
okay.
do.
Okay.
Contracts, I guess.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think they do have contracts with them.
You know, I think we should work out the bugs as we move along with this.
Yeah.
They're gonna come up,
Revisit.
we're gonna have circumstances, and just work them out.
Always
Yeah,
exceptions.
exactly right.
Always.
Okay. So we're agreed that, basically, the things that Bob and Jason and Ron have recommended here probably are a good way to start.
I think it's a great start.
And we're gonna start out and see how we go.
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
While we're on gates, can I ask a question?
sure.
So last meeting, we were gonna try and capture the busiest times the gates were used. And there were a couple of days where the residents' gates both were open for hours.
Yes.
Hours. Anyone could have just breezed right through.
That was the day we knocked off the bars.
There was one day, because I noticed that there was a repair crew out there.
Yeah, we-
Different
Today.
days, trying to fix something, apparently.
What was it, Jan? When was it?
So, this was not last week, but a week before that, and the week
2 weeks
before
ago.
that.
Oh, that could have been when we knocked the
You-
bar arms off.
Few days where both the gates on the capture, what is it called? Capture
Residence.
gate?
Trap gate.
Trap, yeah, I hate that
Trap
thing.
gate, okay.
Trap
Both
gate
open.
and were both open for
That-
hours.
That's when the front two arms were damaged, they had to be replaced.
Right.
And they were not safe to have them,
Going up and
Going
down,
up
so you have
and
to leave them
down.
up,
Okay.
because they'll fall off and hit a car.
And for a while, they were opening the exit gate during busy morning hours and busy afternoon hours, but then it stopped, like for the past 2 weeks, and it hasn't happened at all. So have we been able to capture the information on that?
Yeah, I was gonna say, we're not supposed to open those yet, because we were gonna determine the busiest times to do so, and the times that we thought would be the best to do that. After we looked at that, let me see, I have it here. I'm still recommending, after speaking with the team, and to kind of understand the busiest time, is from 8 to 5 is the best time to do it. Now, I thought about 6, but then they said we're kind of pushing it there, so I'd rather just keep it till 5. Because a lot of folks go out for dinner about 5 o'clock and come back.
Yeah, early.
Um,
I know. a lot of people
About
do.
5 o'clock, yeah. So it is busy between 5 and 6, but I figured I'd just make it 8 to 5.
Gotta get the early birds.
So you're gonna
And-
leave the gates open all day, every day, from 8 to 5?
8 to 5 on the exit.
This is 7 days a week, or just Monday through?
Well, that's why,
Friday, or-
it's not nearly as, well, it's not as busy on a Sunday than it is on Monday through Friday, because of vendors, a lot of vendors going in and out. So I'd recommend we probably at least do it Monday through Friday, and then we can assess Saturday. Sunday, I think we keep them closed.
Okay.
And
Fine with me.
Okay, let's.
It's a start.
let's go
It's a
with
good
that.
start.
Let's go with
Would
that.
we even do this off-season when there's not that much traffic?
no, I think we can review it again out of season and see.
Oh,
So we're
yeah,
capturing
like this,
data.
but
Because
January,
remember,
February,
our
March.
purpose of this was to save
season, might
gate
be
arms
awkward.
and
Yeah.
wear and tear and.
I have another question about the gate arms. The red to green doesn't always seem to work. Like I pulled up the other day and it was flat down and the green lights were on instead of the red ones. So the red turning green doesn't always seem to be working properly either.
My experience has been with them is that if they're going up and down, they don't always trigger the event. We have to have a look at that.
Not syncing with the actual.
Yeah, it's not syncing up, because it's going up and down, up and
At least
down.
people should be able to see them, not hit them.
Yeah, let's just hope no one sees the green and says,
So-
oh, I can
Well,
go
it's
right through the
supposed to be
bar.
telling you it's
I
okay to
understand,
go,
but
but
it's still
yeah,
Okay.
it's still functioning. but
Gate
I mean, we pay a
issue.
lot of money
All right,
for
I
these
think
things, and
the
they don't
system
seem
that
to
we're
work.
moving towards is good. I think you've got a great list to start with of access. But access control is only as good as the guards that enforce it.
Mm-hmm.
And in the past 2 weeks, we've had, and they were supposed to come today to talk about it because it caused us some concerns. A gentleman approached, said he was a relative of someone who lives near me, and the guards were unable to reach the residents at all. He said, look, I'm supposed to go to their house. The guard let him in. The residents found out the guard let him in. They actually did not put a pass in for him because they didn't really want to see him. The guard let him in.
They
So
can't deny
You
it.
cannot deny anyone access. You always have to remember
Right,
that.
I remember that.
You cannot deny
We are not a
access.
gated community, we are a
Yes, I
limited access
know,
community.
I know.
Control
I know.
access, but not prohibit
All right,
access.
scratch that. It just is a little unnerving.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't know now.
So, okay, thank you. Thanks for clarifying that. I forgot.
I have one more, another aside. We have gotten emails, the Safety and Security Work Group has gotten emails from a couple of residents. They say if you have a temporary permit to enter Pelican Preserve, you have to scan it on the barcode reader at the guard lane entrance to Pelican Preserve. The reader sits back, forcing you to move your car to the left to be able to reach out and scan it. After doing so, you must turn sharply right, and you will drive smack into the guard stand. I don't know that that's a problem. Is
It's
that
a-
a problem? And the question is, can the reader be moved or extended?
It's a problem because you have to actually touch pretty close touch
Mhm.
the reader with your thing.
Is there anything that can be done about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, they have to
jump out
touch
the
the reader, and
car.
not turning, what they say, turn right, is left what they
They
say?
say after doing so, you must turn sharply
Sharp
right.
right.
Sharply
Or you will
right.
drive
Because of the,
smack into
because of the
guard
wall, it
stand.
extends
The
out, yeah, the podium, because the podium comes out a bit, so
Yeah.
you have to turn back right to
Yeah.
some extent without running into the guardhouse.
Yeah,
That's
Correct.
exactly right.
That's true.
and they say, we get the reader moved out or extended, so that that's not.
My
an issue.
recommendation is gonna be the following, is that we're gonna have a wireless scanner, and that we can go to the vehicle and scan it, just click them, because we really wanna check the scanner and really check their ID, and then permit entry at that point. It's highly recommended. That's a safety, that's a good safety question, because, I mean, sometimes folks come through there and just kind of run you, literally try to run you down, so you have to be very careful. So I recommend we just scan them as we go in, as the attendant. It's just as fast as them trying to fuddle with the machine, but then run into the gatehouse. So I'd rather just scan them and verify who they are, and then let them in.
Driving test.
Yeah. Okay.
And as far as the reader goes, I did talk to Cypress Access as far as moving it out. It can be moved out maybe 6 inches.
It's just a little
Cost
bit.
of,
Yeah.
about $250.
Yeah.
Basically, if you come up on it,
Well, I think
you
Bob-
have to crawl out the window or you have to open the door.
I think Bob.
Kinda like an ATM.
Yeah, because the scanner we have now is not a USB scanner. The new scanner will be USB. We can walk out and scan them down the road if we wanted to,
Okay.
and allow the entry at that point.
Okay.
More efficient.
Oh, it'd be like Chick-fil-A, you walk down the line. pre-scan.
Exactly.
I want to follow up a little bit on Jan's comment.
Mhm.
We can't limit the person going through the gate, but you can limit the person going to a house
Yeah.
on a
Except-
private road.
Except,
It's not a private
It's
road.
not a private.
Well, I mean, they
Well,
can go down
Matarita's
Pelican Preserve.
private.
No,
Pelican
it's not.
Preserve is public.
It's a public road.
Matarita's public?
No,
No.
Pelican
No.
Preserve is-
Pelican Preserve, I'm agreeing with John.
Yeah.
You can limit them on Pelican Preserve, then they have to get out and walk to whatever residence.
No.
But again, in practicality of this,
they,
again,
they are given.
We don't have enough
are we
staff to
still
follow
gi-
everybody,
well,
John, I'm
I
with
mean,
you.
I thought our process
But you're
was to,
right.
was to give somebody who came through the gate like that, a map to say, you're permitted here, but you're not permitted there.
Right.
Not that that will do any good.
Well, if it's
but
a
you're supposed
home,
to.
you are not permitted on that street with
we
your
agree,
car.
we agree.
Right, if they go into a private home, a private residence, a private road, they have to have permission to go there. However, they can obviously go down into the main.
and down
Say, I'm
Pelican
going
Preserve
down
Boulevard.
Pelican Preserve Boulevard.
Well,
Well, the
Okay.
only
And
private
Cypress Grove.
roads
And
are
Cypress Grove,
in
exactly.
Sienna, Ravenna, and Palazzo. The only private roads. Everything else is CDD owned and public.
Until you get, yeah,
I thought, okay.
No, they're all
Okay.
public.
yeah, all those side streets are all public.
I don't disagree looking at that particular situation. I'm not aware of it, neither was Jason aware of it. We can get some information, because what we don't know is what did he tell us? I mean, I don't know what I have to investigate that.
Okay.
What did
My
he tell
neighbors
us?
aren't here, and I hate to be a third party to
Yeah.
reiterate whatever happened.
Because they should let us
We
know
gotta
about
move
that.
on, Mr.
Irrelevant to the situation, we need to understand it
Yeah,
so we can
okay.
control it.
I think special problems like that should be reported to Jason.
Absolutely, he sent it right to
And-
me.
And Bob and Jason are constantly working to educate the guards, to get them to do things, and it's not easy.
It's
And
an
work on the
ongoing
exceptions.
process.
Exactly, so let's work on exceptions.
Okay.
Any,
Okay.
yeah. Any more discussion of that subject? I wanted to, Jan, I thought that the background check was really part of this, so you want to tell us where you stand with that?
It is. Bob sent me the contract. The word security denotes legal things.
Mhm.
And there's a little bit of conflict legally with the word security and unarmed access guards, which is what we have. So it's been recommended that we change the word security in the existing contract that you sent me, and it only happens in a couple of different places, to access control, visitor access control. That negates the security issues. It negates the requirement to have annual background checks. Annual background checks aren't gonna make us any safer, period. It's not gonna make anyone, I mean, airports can do it, and it's not gonna make them safer.
Yeah, true.
So, the whole key of this is what makes us safer. And annual background checks aren't gonna do it. But the change of the contract, which is what other communities have done, and they're not required by the GSCDD to do the annual background checks. Is it possible to change the contract?
Absolutely. What I can do is I can propose to my legal group an addendum that would rephrase or redefine our security officers as access control officers to the post. And what I can do, Jan, if you send me back an email, and then I'll send it to legal, just remind me to do that. And then I'll have them draw up an addendum to that effect, and then we'll see if that works for you folks.
And
Do you
Can I
all
have-
And then
agree?
that will,
I have a question about that, too. Right now, you get a report if they break any law because they're security officers, right?
Right.
Report meaning,
Like because they're
oh,
licensed
yeah,
security.
because they're licensed, that's
Yeah.
correct, yes, absolutely right.
If you change their job title, will you quit getting that information?
No, absolutely not.
They would still required to be licensed.
Under the law, we're still
Yes.
required to have a security guard license. We must have one.
Regardless of what you call them.
Regardless of what we call them.
Okay.
But as a community, and we've been talking about this, we do want to move to access control and not security.
Yep.
That's why we changed that letter. Jason
Yeah,
brought
that
that
was
up when we
a
changed that,
great
because like,
suggestion. It
like,
ties right into
whoa,
this.
we had to
Yeah, I
change
just wanted
it.
to make sure it wouldn't stop you
Jan,
from
but-
getting
That current data.
that current data.
It's more of a roles and responsibilities from what I understand from other communities. So you can call yourself security systems, but the roles and responsibilities of the folks that support Pelican are uniformed visitor access control guards.
Yeah, and it could be patrol, could be a courtesy officer, a gate attendant, or access control attendant, you name it. We got every name in the book that we call them, other than security.
Correct.
I just
so-
wanted to make sure you would still get
No, absolutely,
the
abs-
report
that's-
if they did
cannot
anything
change.
illegal.
Jan, let me just follow up, though. Is it true, you're saying that the GSCD board has allowed other communities not to have the annual checks?
Yep.
Which communities? Stony Brook?
Stony Brook and
That's all right. But
Hampton Park,
Gateway Greens.
Gateway Greens.
I think. I'll go back and look at my notes. But they both based it on the contract, and their contracts are slightly different from ours in that they've got visitor access control systems
Okay.
as the roles and responsibilities of the folks that patrol that.
Absolutely. We have no issue with that.
Right.
So, yeah, we can do that, yeah.
After we get this addendum, we'll need to run it by our council,
Right.
our district council, Tony Pierce,
Okay.
to see whether that it meets the criteria. Mr., you want to introduce yourself, sir, to the audience? Make a comment?
I'm Bill Guy. I live on Bellagio in Pelican Preserve. I just have a recollection I want to share with you. I believe what you're doing here is making a distinction without a difference. And if you'll recall, the Gateway Services Board voted last year that these security guards or access control officers or whatever are supposed to have a renewal of their certificate every year. So, I just wanted to throw that into the
Well,
mix.
now that's
That's
the reason
not
I
my
asked,
understanding.
that's the reason I asked Jan that question, because she's telling me that you've allowed a couple of communities not to do it.
Right.
Gateway Greens and Stony
They
Brook.
petitioned GSCDD and said, we're not a security operation. It's not, gated. We are a visitor access control. My understanding from the GSCDD was that you wanted annual background investigations. And my understanding from Sarah is Pelican does 5 different checks on everyone, and they get updates on all the persons that are hired to work with Securitas in Pelican. So I understand what drove the GSCDD to do that. It was the shooting in Orlando. And I appreciate the concern, but my concern on top of that is it really gonna make us safer? And coming from a security background, it does not. And I spoke with 2 other communities. You know the guys, I don't, actually.
Well, Jen, I mean, I think that's the critical issue, rather than trying to convince the board that we don't need it. If they've already allowed 2 communities to do it, have they actually officially allowed those 2 communities not to do the annual check?
Yeah, I'm hearing
Yes.
from Bill, they haven't.
No.
He is the GC.
My
They- no.
understanding,
That's what I'm saying. That-
No,
that's
no,
what
and no.
he's saying.
Jan-
He says-
actually, it's in the notes, it's in the meeting notes, the people I spoke with. They said yes, they ran it through the GSCDD and they do not have to do the annual
Well,
background checks.
We're not gonna solve it
Here's
here.
somebody, yeah.
Go back.
Would you please
I'll get
follow
back
up
in
on
touch
that
with Ed
and
Tinkle
find out
and-
how they
right.
got that official, because.
If you're hearing the board say that didn't
The guy was telling us
happen.
that didn't happen. And that was the reason I asked the question about.
Okay.
Okay?
All right,
Okay.
moving
All
right
right.
along.
Thank you.
Would you like to take over here?
Oh, no. No, no, I just like to speed it up.
He's got a dinner engagement.
No. I mean, we're an hour and 15 minutes into the meeting, come on.
Time to just, you're right, time to speed it up.
We have important things to talk about.
We're only
Ca-
not even halfway through.
Capital Reserve Study.
In here.
We need to have a capital reserve study. There's gonna be a lot of work to get it off the ground. And Nancy Hall has told me that she does not have, because of personal circumstances at this point, she doesn't have the time to really follow up on it. And Ron, I wondered whether we could ask you
What would you like for me to do?
to take on, well, it's a matter of getting the capital reserve study getting it going.
Okay.
And Nancy is very willing to be a resource.
Am I allowed to talk to her after the meeting?
Yes. Huh?
Am I allowed to
Yes.
talk to her after the?
After the meeting. She will fill you in on what needs to be done,
Okay.
all right?
Okay.
Okay? Thank you. But this is something we really need to do.
Oh, I agree with that.
Yeah. Okay, anything more on capital reserve study? PPAC charter, of course, is still, we're waiting for our eminent
Attorney?
district council to comment on it. The one thing I would say is that one of the things we had provided in that document, and I don't think we would be prevented from doing it, is an annual election of the officers of the committee. And I'd like to suggest that everybody give that some thought, and that maybe the next time we discuss whether we want to have an election and change the committee officers, the, chairman who will speak the minute the meeting's up, or something of that sort. So would you please give that some thought? I'm gonna ask Diane to put that, at least a discussion of that on the next agenda.
And to that item,
Yes.
if I may,
Okay?
it would be appropriate within consideration of our charter
Yeah.
as to whether we are going to be a discussion group to solve every little problem and talk about every variation and every exception to every rule, or to have the individual that's bringing the item up, or whoever else is responsible, to make a report out on whatever they have found, subject to comments separately. In other words, we spend a lot of time here talking about things that you don't need 8 people to do it. And my history and my frustration comes from, you never send 2 people to a meeting, 1 person should do it. If you're sending 2, you don't need 1 of them. From business. Now, I know that's not totally applicable here, and I know we have to have sub-discussion. But it seems like we get weighted down on some things ad infinitum. And I just throw that out as an item.
I agree.
I
And I think the letter was an example. The letter you wrote, oh my God, it went back and forth so many times with everybody making comments, and it just,
Well, out of this meeting, I'm okay with that.
well, but I mean, that's just an example of how things
Example, I
get
totally agree.
overworked.
But okay, just an item for consideration. It's not personal, it really isn't.
Yeah.
But I do get frustrated, we spend, and then, we're at item 4 of 16, and when we get to the last 5 items, bam, we fly through them, whatever they are. Okay,
Reverse the order sometime.
doesn't make any difference. It really doesn't. Whatever we talk about first, we talk to them.
Well, at least that would change what we talk about a lot.
Okay. Next item, item 7, is the bond update regarding the claim on funds. And Nancy, I guess,
Well, I'm kind of out of it at this point. It's really up to Bob to say, have we started making claims on the bond funds?
We have, but not regard to a final lift on Pelican Reserve, everything
Well, I'll
else.
talk about that separately.
Okay, yeah, for the bonds portion, we're rolling. We have submitted a list, and I'm doing everything I can to get the money spent in 17, so we can finally deplete it and close that fund out. And I'll talk about that in the bonds report when I get to it. We've got 2 items that'll carry over into 17.
Separate from that is a question came up about the final lift on Pelican Preserve Boulevard. And in talking with Tetra Tech was waiting for the construction to be done down in the ones.
Palazzo.
in
Palazzo.
Oh, they're gonna be waiting a long time for that.
Yeah, well, I drove down there
But
the other.
they put the second lift down.
Palazzo has its second
Yeah,
lift.
yeah.
So the part that's not done is the second lift that we want. So I suggest that the funds are sitting there to be spent. And I can just tell Tetra Tech that it's our recommendation for the following reasons, that Palazzo's been done, and it could be a very long time before they ever build out the rest, and we want to close out this bond fund to just do it.
Well, and the other thing, there's a couple of people from that neighborhood here today, and what they're telling me now is that the road beneath asphalt is starting to crumble because it's just starting to crumble underneath, and they're concerned that if they don't get the final lift, the underneath, is this correct? The underneath portion is going to become worse and worse and worse.
What portion of the area are you talking about? From the circle to the bridge?
I've got some
Yeah.
pictures, if you guys wanna see them.
From the circle to the bridge?
No, from the circle to Palazzo.
That's not ours.
Viadana.
That's
Viadana.
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 Just be done.
Just Viadana.
Okay.
We're the only finished neighborhood that has not had the top lift.
Come to the
okay,
Margarita.
would you please come up to the podium, introduce yourselves, and
Sure.
make your comments? Thank you.
Surely, my name's Dee Dahowski, and this
I'm
is,
Bob Samansky, resident of Viadana, too.
we're residents via Donna, and we were told that we had to wait for Palazzo to be completed before we were top lifted. Now, Palazzo has been top lifted, everyone has been top lifted. We are an established neighborhood, have been established since 2011, 2012, who have not been top lifted. The road is starting to break down, and they've top lifted Matarita 1, Matarita 2, even the existing neighborhoods of Bellagio, Portofino, and Sevilla have had enhancement coats put on. Our neighborhood looks like, and I have called it the ghetto because of our road. Bob has some great pictures of how our road is breaking down. We have our sewer caps hanging up in the air. We have the curbing breaking down. We have potholes. So we are asking for it to be top lifted.
My question to the committee is there anybody objects to us undertaking this?
I want to make sure that we understand
Yes,
that Palazzo is only about maybe 60% built,
yes.
maybe 60%. So if we spend the money, then we're taking the risk that if damage occurs post-top lift, it's on us.
Sir, the whole Pelican Preserve Boulevard, which has had construction vehicles going up and down, has not broken down.
I didn't say it
Our
would.
roads are breaking
I
down.
didn't say it would, I just said it will let Bill.
That's always been the
The
argument.
risk is,
No.
and if we wait, then we don't have it, okay. go ahead.
No, the rest of, there is a difference. The rest of that boulevard, there is a performance bond that WCI put up to protect it from from the heavy vehicles going on it. And if there is damage, then that performance bond can be used to correct it.
That's my TPS.
So there is, just to point out that there is a difference in what Bob is saying. If we do it in your neighborhood, then we run the risk. But I will tell you, early on, we did a lot of research, and I understand in talking with the engineers that there is also, when it starts to fall apart, there comes a point when it has to be done. I understand that. I went out, I looked at it.
Thank you.
I will be talking to the engineer on your behalf, but we wanted to run it past the committee and have a committee discussion. So,
It's been agreed that Bellagio won't be, won't be 4 or 5 years, so we have to put another, and everyone else looks good. We don't look good.
Well-
And I don't really care about 3 or 4 years down the road. I may not be here. I'm here now, and I would like my neighborhood to look good.
well, the other thing I'd point out about Bellagio, Portofino, et cetera, we pay separately to put that on ourselves.
I think you meant Palazzo.
Plaza, I meant Palazzo, where Palazzo has been top-lifted. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to,
No, Palazzo is a private neighborhood. We have nothing to do with that.
I realize that,
Okay,
but
that
they are,
BCI still owns, they haven't turned that over
But
yet.
the difference is.
what about Matarita 2, Matarita 3?
The difference is, some roads are public, which we have to pay for. Some roads are private, which we don't. That's the difference. Our responsibility is on the public roads. But Bill, I think you wanted to say something?
I just,
Yeah,
I just wanted to recall a conversation that took place in this room about 5 years ago, where the board was discussing whether we were going to, when we were going to put the top lift, the second lift on Pelican Preserve Boulevard. And some folks were arguing that there's too much truck traffic going down Pelican Preserve Boulevard, that we shouldn't put the top coat on. And I can remember Danny Nelson standing at this podium and saying, you've got to put the top lift on that Pelican Preserve Boulevard, or it will just, what you've got there is not designed for truck traffic or any kind of traffic to speak of. And so with that, the board voted at that time to move ahead and put the final lift on Pelican Preserve Boulevard. So I wanted to confirm what that lady was saying. just a
What,
minute
Bill,
ago.
that's also the point that WCI put up the performance bond that's outstanding, in case there was truck damage to it.
That was not discussed at the,
Oh, yeah.
at the conversation that I'm referring to. from-
It was
from-
done at that same meeting.
Pardon?
It was done at that same meeting.
What was done at this?
The requirement for WCI to do the performance bond.
Your memory is better than mine. I don't recall that.
Nancy, is there any way we can?
Having played trivia with you, I guarantee you it's better.
Is there any way we can get, or?
Yeah, what can we do for an insurance policy? That's all I'm saying.
Well, I don't think that we'll be able to do that kind of
Okay.
thing. I mean, but I will tell you this, the other issue with this is bond counsel
Yes.
has recommended closing out that bond.
Totally agree.
By the middle of this year, right?
By yesterday,
Yes.
you could do it.
So that's another issue.
That's another
Absolutely,
reason to do
absolutely.
it.
Yep.
So,
But what I was sharing with you with the comments when the board, when I was in the last meeting about 4 months ago with the board, and that specific item came up, and we just pointed out, was brought up, that was only about 40 to 60% of Palazzo built out. Now, that's still going to be quite a while. I mean, that was built in
Oh.
2007
Right.
or 8, and here, it's almost 9 years later, 8 years later,
Yeah.
and it's still only
right. And
60%.
the other thing for the folks here who are from Viadana, yours is not the only place that hasn't been finished. There are 2 or 3 other small places in
Yeah,
Pelican. that will-
Trentino's, not Trentino, by the sales center.
Yeah, by the sales center. There's some other places that need to have that top lift done, and it'll all be done at the same time.
Which is when?
Let me talk to the engineers.
Because the longer we wait, the more it's gonna deteriorate.
Yes,
Your point is well
Your
taken.
point is well taken. I think the committee agrees that it ought to be done. Nancy, my one question is, do we have to go to the board to get this done?
Yes, we do. I think, yeah, to spend the money. I'm gonna
Bond fund
talk to
money.
Tetra Tech and ask that Danny bring it forward.
When we agree, and Tetra Tech agrees, the board will pro forma it. But we
Yeah.
have to get.
And
Okay,
I think
so
you
do we
have the
need- do we
support
need-
of a board
Do we need
member.
a motion?
One other statement I would just like to make. Our concern is, the money is there now, from what we understand, to do this. With Lennar coming on board, WCI, we don't know what's in store for our money
It has
later
nothing-
on, so.
nothing
It has
to do
nothing
with
to do
that.
with that. and-
Separate account, totally
And the
separate.
committee is in your corner.
Yeah.
Quit
I
while
don't-
you're ahead.
Do we need a motion?
Well, we ought to wait and hear what Danny says first, that's all.
Well, it can't hurt, I think.
Yeah.
Make a motion subject to
To
Danny's.
recommend
Subject, yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
Nancy, you want to make a motion?
Yeah, I'd be happy to make a motion that we recommend to the board that we move forward with the final lift on the 2 or 3 areas that
Remaining
still need
areas.
to, remaining areas. And in the event that we can close out the bond account in a timely manner and get the work done.
Okay.
Comment, the only comment I would like to add to it,
Yeah, could we have a second?
Tetra Tech's approval.
No? Yeah, okay, with Tetra Tech's approval.
I'll second that with
Second.
Tetra Tech's approval.
Third.
Are there any comments? Okay.
I'd like to make a comment on the bond fund. You
Okay.
assigned me a.
Oh, I'm sorry, can we have a vote on
Oh,
this
I thought
motion
we did.
first? Any more comments on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
7-0, okay.
All right, on the bond fund, the last meeting, Jen brought up an invoice regarding the circle at.
Oh, I did.
Palazzo. I mean,
Yeah.
that's it. And you asked me to check with WCI. I met with David Caldwell regarding this, and I also inspected that circle. The damage that was done cannot be done by conventional construction trucks. It has to be done by the 18-wheelers. But the 18-wheelers are gonna continue to go by with the new construction that's gonna continue at Palazzo, because those construction trucks can only come through Pelican Preserve Boulevard.
But the question is, who should be paying for that damage,
Well,
WCI or us?
this is why I brought it up now. And it's not a big amount. I mean, how much do you fight for small amounts?
Yeah.
Can that come out of the bond fund?
Right,
It's a damage done through that road.
right now, everything was pretty much spoken for.
I was gonna say, the answer is no, because there's no more money.
There's no more money.
All right, if you want this, I mean, David Caldwell agreed it was probably damaged by their trucks.
Is he willing to pay?
How do we get it paid? I don't
Here,
know the
David, will you pay
procedure.
it?
We had trouble getting procedure just for reimbursement on the lights on Cypress Grove. If there's a procedure, I think David would agree to it. It's not a big amount.
Okay, John, I can answer you this way.
Jason, can we work?
When
on
we
that?
had problems in the flowway, WCI paid the bill with their legal caveats of not to be construed as requiring them to do it in the future, but it was a one-time event, and they paid it. And all we did was give them the bill.
Do we want to fight for $300?
But we don't know how often it's been happening or how often it will continue to
It
happen.
could continue if you have to bring in 18-wheelers.
My
Small
litmus-
trucks will make the turn, regular cars make the other turn, an 18-wheeler probably has to damage it.
Right over it.
My litmus test is, if I'm willing to pay the 300, then I can forget about it. But if I'm not willing to write a check, then I want them to pay.
Is there a way to do it?
I just told you.
Well, it seems to me that what we need to do is we need to get an agreement from WCI that they will pay for this damage and any other damage
Of like nature.
of like nature that occurs because of their construction equipment.
All right, I'll follow up with David.
Yes, follow up with David. And see
And if
what-
we get
see
that,
what-
then we have no risk with our top lift.
Exactly.
And the reimbursement would be what? You're saying he just writes a check?
That's what they did.
Or we would
Two.
just have.
They paid the
have-
bill, we gave them the bill.
Yeah.
Would
To
you
the
guys
Master
be able to
Association.
send the
No,
bills
no,
their
no,
way
no, no master
separately?
association. The bill went to WCI.
Yeah.
So
just-
rather than,
Right,
this has probably been paid,
that one has been paid.
future bills.
You just tell Ameriscape, bill WCI, and give a name and who's gonna accept it.
Okay.
Can we do
Yeah.
that?
And you agree
Yeah, if
with
we
that?
receive any bills, for that, then absolutely, we would redirect them rather than even submit.
All right, I'll follow up with David.
Yeah.
They have the way of doing it. Rhonda Brewer authorized it, and we just sent it right to her, and we had no more about it.
Okay.
Okay? John, you'll follow up on that?
I will do that with David.
Okay.
I
Come on, Bill. I suggest you do it promptly. the official word that I get is that the merger of Lennar and WCI is only waiting on SEC approval, which is probably coming this month. And after that happens, I can't guarantee you that David Caldwell, Rhonda Brewer,
Very
or
good.
anybody else is going to be in position to do that.
Correct.
Thank you,
Or even
thank
be
you
there.
for your
Get the
admonition.
precedent right now.
Wow.
Thank
The
you
commitment.
for your admonition. Okay,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
all right. Ponds Work Group.
Well, first of all, I would like to apologize because I sent emails late to Diane to give copies to everybody, and she's off today, so there's no copies. But what they were relative to is, the first one is, Tony Perez has commented on the covenants of Tiberio and Valentina relative to the downspout initiative. And he has said that they look good to him. And we got a specific letter from the board of Tiberio saying they would accept any responsibility. But in addition to that, Tony had a question about the Master Association covenants, 4 specific items. And again, I don't have it with me, but you'll be getting it shortly. And those 4 seem to give us carte blanche to do what we want to do. The only question, and I sent it to Sarah Mabry because I didn't send it to Jason, was have there been any changes to the covenants from this date, and I believe it was January 15th, 2001, to date, on these 4 specific paragraphs? Most likely the answer is going to be no, because it's boilerplate language. And then when that comes back, then we move ahead with the rain spout initiative, and it should be within 30 days. The money's been approved, contract is ready to go. All we need is Tony to say we got the authority. So that's the first thing, and you were going to get a copy of that.
Is there anything more on that specific thing? Because I have a question that was
Nothing more related to downspouts and gutters.
downspouts and gutters. The question was brought up at the president's meeting this morning. We are going to be spending CDD funds on private property.
Absolutely.
And do we have the right to do that?
Well, we got the right from PPAC and the board, yes. Because, the big because is, it's only going to be spent on properties that feed our asset, the asset being the ponds. That's the only place it's being done. And it prevents us from spending future monies, like we have been, for repairing washout and erosion. And this will prevent it. What we're finally doing is spending money to prevent damage.
Yes.
We're getting to the root cause.
It was brought up in the context of you are spending my money on somebody else's house.
That is absolutely correct.
Mhm.
And we are doing that from the big picture perspective of, we will be saving you money in the future.
Okay.
But yes, the answer to both questions is yes, we are.
Okay, fire away.
Okay, the second thing has to do with the track L, the famous track L. I finally got the Morris Riley report, and copies were gonna be coming to you today, but we don't. I have a meeting with Morris Riley next Tuesday or Wednesday, and they're gonna be giving me the videotapes. I got a call on the way here today that WCI is engaging extreme divers, the people that have cleaned our pipes in the past, to be cleaning some pipes for them. I'm taking a leap and saying I think that's going to be track L, but I don't know that yet, because there's very little, there was no damage in the track L piping, but there was some sediment that I would like to have removed, or I think we should like to have removed prior to takeover. So again, we've got the report will be coming to you as soon as Diane comes back. We don't have the videos yet, and then depending on what WCI is going to do with the cleanup, then we can proceed with transfer. If they don't clean it up, then I'm gonna say ponds will not accept it, and I think PPAC should not accept transfer.
So what I'm hearing is if that's not gonna be done until next week, they will not be ready to discuss conveyance at the January 19th.
Until the pipes are cleaned,
Okay.
we can't discuss
And that was the
conveyance.
reason that Tony.
I saw
removed-
that.
Tony removed that from the,
And that was a good move.
okay.
We have not been neglectful in this at all. We, being PPAC, we've been pushing WCI to do this for months.
Mhm.
It's not done yet, that's all
Yeah.
I can tell you.
And as you know, we still have road issues as well.
Yes,
And until we have those discussions.
but if it's a
we're not
package
ready for
deal,
the
ponds is
conveyance.
not ready at this point.
Okay.
Well, let me just say, in light of what Bill had said, are we throwing the baby out with the bathwater here? As far as what we're willing to accept and what we're willing to do, because there's a good chance that any agreement that we might or might not have had with WCI won't follow through to a successor.
Okay, I really don't see a downside to us because they're paying all the bills.
Yeah.
They wanted to change it more than we
Yeah,
want.
it's their,
If it stays with them forever, we save money.
exactly. Yeah, and they're the ones who want to get it made, and I think that's the.
Yeah, so I agree with you, because you know. Okay, from the financial downpoint or perspective, I made the request to Stephen Bloom to confirm what Pons believes is the outstanding balance of unspent funds from prior years should currently, entering 2017 fiscal year, be $608,000 some odd dollars. And Stephen has promised he will confirm that like he did last year, but to date, that hasn't happened. And the last thing is Pond 27, which is the pond between Avila and Pelican Reserve Boulevard, is the next pond that we have discussed and brought to PPAC, where we're going to do erosion repair. Everybody's ready to do it, but I have a problem with Tetra Tech. For whatever reason, they're slow and they're not giving us the engineering docs we need to proceed. But I'm hard pressed to get this done any faster because it is going to be bond fund money and we want to spend it. And I've conveyed that to them. So I'm just letting PPAC know that once we get the approval from Tetra Tech, then we're gangbusters and we should have it spent by June. But we don't have it. That's all I got for pause.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you working with Jerry, president of Matarita 2?
We are not working with anyone other than Tiberio Valentina. That is the pilot. If we're talking downspouts,
No, we're talking pond, they're getting ready to turn Matarita 2 over.
that's track L.
That's track L.
Oh.
all track L.
That's track L, yes.
I'm track L.
I don't know.
You're part of track L.
I'm
Could
part of
be.
track-
So am I, Jan.
I have a quick.
I beg your pardon?
There's Karina.
Yes.
part of
Yes.
that?
Yes.
Part of a very small part of Carina is track L.
I saw sewer viewers out there again yesterday.
And they are one of the outfits that is working with Extreme Divers to try and take care of our video issues with the sediment and things.
You know, they weren't out in front of the hole in my house.
Well, I
On
gotta,
the other side of the yards.
I gotta tell you, our past experience with sewer viewer is not good. They're excellent at billing, and they're terrible at performance. After they did clean the pipe, we got another guy to go in and take a video, and you'd have never known anyone was in there. But we're not hiring, we'll never hire them again. So when
Well,
WCI said sewer
understand
viewer
they're
cleaned it,
WCI, and I don't trust them one bit.
well, I'm sure they're paying them good money, sewer viewer isn't cheap.
No,
But
they're
the
gonna get
performance
the
was,
report they want.
we didn't get the performance we needed.
Okay, any discussion, John?
All right, I have a question regarding the gutters and downspouts.
Yes.
I was under the impression from your previous presentation here at the advisory committee that each of the communities, if the homeowner would get the gutters and the downspouts, ponds would do the underground piping to the street for its conveyance from the street to the pond.
If it's on a pond.
Well, that's the question that came up at our Portofino meeting. One of the reasons you're doing this, for example, would be you do not want runoff from the homes, for example, that have a lot of fertilizer on it, to go to the street and cause contamination to the pond, because that fertilizer from the street is gonna go.
I
into the
wouldn't
pond.
argue with that at all, I would agree with that.
So,
But we can only we only have so much money to spend.
well,
Let's take this one aside and we'll,
Well,
Unless everybody
take
wants
I think it's an important issue that's being discussed at some of the HOAs. What do you do with the 5 to 8 homes in a community that do not get the opportunity to have bubblers and a drainage to a street when all the other homes do, and now the HOA, based on what you're asking them to do, has to take the responsibility for all of that anyway. So do they exempt those
okay,
5 or
wait,
6
wait,
homes?
wait. I wanna make sure that I'm being clear, and if I'm not, please. If a home is on a pond, We are gonna take the runoff from the buildings, front, back, and put it either in the pond or in the street. The primary mission is erosion and washout. That's the primary mission. The secondary serendipitous benefits is we also take care of fertilizers, pesticides, and things like that. We're gonna be hard pressed to get everything done with the money we have. We will not get it done with existing funds. This is a long-term, multi-year, well into the future project. Because the monies that we're gonna need in new Pelican, because I've only really been talking old Pelican, but everything in Cypress Groves is gonna be considerable money, millions of dollars. And we will do that in the same way we've been doing everything else. We have allocated, I estimate right now, $200,000 a year into forever. And that 200,000 is coming from existing money that we're spending on washouts and erosion. Once this last repair is done, we won't need that anymore. And everything we're spending with downspouts is to prevent any future money ever needing to be spent. Now, we get to the homeowner requirements. HOA, the individual HOA is committing, if they want our money, that they're gonna take care of the downspouts and gutters on their properties. If they don't, we do nothing. But if they have them, then we will work with them and put everything in the ground that needs to be done. With the commitment that that HOA is gonna fund an annual cleaning of whatever we put in, going into forever. When it comes to homes that are not on a pond, if that HOA wants to take it on themselves to do it, they can certainly avail themselves to do it. It's not a requirement to make the pond healthy. Hope that
Most
makes
of
sense.
the existing homes in, I'm gonna use Portofino, that already have bubblers or already have drainage to the street, is the responsibility of that individual homeowner to keep it clean.
Correct.
And I'm gonna assume that other HOAs would keep that responsibility with the homeowner.
That's individual by homeowner, individual HOA by HOA.
No, it
The
isn't,
accept-
that's on the covenant, that they're responsible for that.
We are changing covenants to get this done. And that's what, part of what Tony is working with. If Tiberio HOA accepts the responsibility of doing the annual cleanout, then that means it's no longer on the individual homeowners. Now it's on the HOA.
Which could be fine if you did all the homes on an HOA. But if you don't do all the homes on the HOA, Bob, I mean, I have bubblers, mine go to the street, and I've repaired mine already. I'm not talking myself.
Okay.
We have a few lawyers that live in our HOA.
We're not doing anything illegal or hiding.
No, but they
Go ahead.
are, for one example, they don't have a bubbler, and they're causing tremendous erosion just between homes. But as a result, if their pool bubbles over, et cetera, you know, they're looking for reasons for the HOA to pay for a lot of the damage that could be the homeowners. Once you do
What's wrong with that? That's good.
Nothing.
That's good, okay.
Well, the HOA should not take that responsibility if it's the homeowner that makes a problem. Once the ponds group does this on a total basis, but exempts.
Well,
and I'm
I
gonna
wouldn't say that, don't say we're exempting.
Well, you-
Ponds Group's gonna do it on homes on ponds.
But you
period.
still have a lot of the homes that are across the street from the pond.
We're gonna do homes on ponds.
That restriction, I think some people may take exception to that.
I can't help that, but I hear you. What do you want me to, we're here to preserve the asset, the asset's the pond.
Which you do, and they're gonna make the argument that you have a lot of fertilizer, you have everything else going to that street that's going into the pond.
I said that was serendipitous. The reason we're doing it is erosion and washout.
Okay, I mean,
I mean, does anybody else have any comment?
I
I mean,
think
we've
that-
talked
I
about
think
this
you
in this
take-
group a number of times, and that's okay. It's good to have a good, healthy discussion. But that's what it is, and we all need to be prepared to defend that to whoever might challenge it.
how are you gonna get the HOAs to take that responsibility if it's not on the whole community?
Which responsibility are we talking about? Maintaining the cleanout?
Maintaining the cleanouts.
Because by specific agreement, with a pattern of every home, to say, these are the homes you're gonna take the responsibility to do the annual cleaning. And we will have it street by street, Actually, we have it home by home.
Doesn't
Well, that's
sound
what you
very
have
fair
to do.
enough.
That's part of
Do
it.
it home by home.
And the HOA,
Could we take this offline?
well, we can't really take it offline. And to Bob's earlier comment, one of the problems is, we meet once a month,
Right,
and we can't talk with each other between meetings.
true.
So I'm sorry that this has to happen, but we have to
Okay.
have some of these
Some of
discussions.
these we have to,
because
I
we
agree.
have to have certain discussions, because it's gonna be another month before all of us get together. And I believe these things are important. We need
I could not discuss this with Bob, even if he was at a president's meeting.
I got that.
But Bob could come to a Portofino board meeting
And have offered to do that.
and explain it.
Yeah, and it seems to me, John, that if the HOA could make the decision to take care of everybody who isn't taken care of by the Ponds Group, and you'd have already saved money because the Ponds Group would have taken care of at least a portion of your homes. But that's up to the HOA to make that kind of a decision.
When the other part of that is, at the time that it's done, if it's all done simultaneously, I would presume that the work could be piggybacked on a contract.
To get the cost,
to get
oh,
the cost
absolutely.
reduced.
Okay.
To get the
So
cost,
I think there are some reasons why neighborhoods with a few homes not on
Here it is, John.
ponds might want to do it.
this is the level of detail that we're down
I
to.
have
This is
this.
Valentine, well, I mean,
Well, I mean,
but
this
that's
was
pretty
presented at our
specific.
board meeting.
Yeah, this is pretty specific. Every neighborhood will get documents like this that'll list the home and exactly what's gonna be done.
All right, one final question is, you're eventually gonna take responsibility for the preserves.
We're not there yet, but okay.
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 When you do that, you're gonna have the same potential issue with some of the bubblers go into towards the preserve.
Not really.
Yes, they
Okay.
do.
They're not supposed to.
Well,
They're not
that's
built
how
right.
WCI did it.
Well, they're not built right. The WCI
So
just
what
went
do
through
you
and
do to
corrected
those?
everything.
What are you gonna do to those?
It's gonna do nothing. I don't care what goes in the preserve.
At this point, you don't.
Even if we're responsible, who cares? It's a preserve. We're not worried about washout and erosion in a preserve. If nutrients go there, okay, that's what South Florida wants, natural. But WCI
Those
went
aren't
through two or
natural.
3 years ago and bermed everything and put the white signs, those white ugly signs. Well,
I agree.
it was, you know, quote unquote, maybe a half-assed job, but they did it. South Florida bought off on it.
Okay. All right. Will you commit to come to the next Portofino?
Well, I don't know what it is, but
HOA?
I'll commit that somebody bonds will be there. Doug Zanders, I represent, he's a
Well,
point man on this, and
Doug
Doug's
has
very
not-
good.
Based on, and I'm giving secondhand information, based on the information from our president of the HOA.
Is Kepner your guy?
Yeah.
I talk to him every single day.
I know. Oh,
And he knows exactly what we're doing and why.
He hasn't presented that
Okay,
directly.
Okay.
It's gotta come from somebody from Pond.
I'll be happy to, you just tell me when your next meeting is, I'll make my,
Yeah.
do my damnedest.
Yeah,
to
'cause
get it.
January-
Ne- Nepper came after
February
me about
14th.
But
this again
every
today, and
single
I-
community is gonna have this same type of hands-on,
It's February 14th, 3 o'clock.
what day is that?
3 o'clock.
Valentine's Day.
What day of the week is
Tuesday.
it?
Remember your wife.
But right now, you're only talking old Pelican.
Only talking Old Pelican.
Okay.
And you're gonna have a
I will-
whole set of different issues when you
Be a
get to new Pelican.
completely different mountain to climb when we get to new.
Can you answer my question?
Sure.
15 minutes ago?
Try. What was it?
On communities that are being turned over
Yep.
to the HOA from WCI, does anyone in PPAC, you, in your group, look at the ponds and see if there are issues that WCI needs to address?
To the answer, short answer to that is no, we have no knowledge or interest in when they're turning it over to an HOA. However, whenever the asset is being turned over to the district,
Right.
totally separate event, we're deeply
It
involved
is a
in that.
separate event?
Yes.
Separate event.
It's not coincident, it doesn't?
Nope, nope.
The ponds don't
When
go
the
at the same
HOA
time
gets a
that HOA
committee,
does.
gets a neighborhood, they don't get the ponds.
Thank you.
No sweat.
Okay. Bob, just a couple of little things came up at the president's meeting
Okay.
this morning. One of them is that your guy made a presentation about the signs that are going in on the ponds.
Oh, he did? Good for him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and he brought a map and all sorts of things.
Hasn't told me that yet, but I know it's coming, but that's all right.
Okay.
That's
The
good.
numbers.
That's good.
Two questions arose. Number one, why are we doing it?
Okay.
And related, why are we, taking on the cost of doing it?
Okay, to answer the first question, why are we doing it? A number of people don't know the pond they live on.
Yes.
Most people are very happy with that. But it was suggested to us, aside from the fact we have it in the town center and they're numbered all over the place, why not put it on each individual pond? It was a reasonable suggestion. I went to Joe Smith and asked him if he would pay for that. And in a very typical type of thing, he said, no. I said, okay, if we get the signs made and cover that cost, will you provide the installation and the labor to put them in? And he said he would. So that's why we did it. Same as the fishing signs. Now that we have the signs, now the question is where to put them.
Yep.
And the direction that the work group gave to the lead man was, go to every neighborhood and get a consensus from that HOA where they want it.
Well, he presented a map this morning that showed each HOA where you're proposing to put them.
I probably would have phrased that more diplomatically. We're gonna say, here's your pond, where would you like to have?
Well, he picked it, he had dots on the map.
Well, he was told to make a straw man proposal, that's
Yeah.
true. But the final authority, where it goes, is gonna be every neighborhood.
Well, yes.
And if the neighborhood says they don't want it, I'm okay with that.
He made that
Oh,
quite clear.
okay, okay.
The neighborhood, that's the reason he put the map up. He said, this is where we propose to put them, but if you want them shifted
Oh, good,
someplace else.
then he did exactly the right
Yes,
thing.
Right,
And if a neighborhood says, I don't want it,
okay.
I don't have any.
What did the
So,
sign
so
say?
the pond,
It's a
It's
number.
gonna be a number.
Pond
Can I make a
32.
suggestion?
Sure.
Instead
Age.
of adding another sign
Each one
and
has
the
a
cost of
number.
the signs, why not just put the number on the bubble box?
Well, that's a very good idea, except that some ponds don't have the bubble boxes in one neighborhood and the ponds in the other.
But the name, and the number is the same and the name's the same, just put it on the bubble box.
Well, and you and I may know that, but the neighbor walking his dog around it, when he calls out, he's got a problem. When he calls up, he says, I don't know the name of my pond, but it's here. And we're just trying to
But you think he's
make
gonna
it
be
simple.
near that sign that's gonna say he's here?
Well, if it's in a prominent location, unobtrusively, but one where everybody could see it.
But my feeling is that there's so many signs
Signs,
around,
that's
that's
Nancy's
just gonna
comment this
blend
morning.
right into into the environment with me. I'm not even gonna see that sign because it's not important to
Gonna
me.
get knocked over by the mower?
but
Yeah.
we've already paid for the signs?
Oh, yeah, signs are done.
The signs are done,
It's only $300.
yeah, okay.
Wasn't a lot of money.
Put them in
Okay.
the bubble box.
It's a sunk cost.
It's a sunk cost.
Sunk cost.
The horse is out of the barn.
So, any neighborhood that doesn't want it just says they don't want it.
Okay.
End of discussion.
Yeah.
It's like, when you go down Matarita, you see all these signs saying, end of GSCDD utilities, beginning of Fort Myers. What is the point of those signs?
Okay, well, there's a good question. Let me
cares?
just ask you this. If you're going down Matarita, and on the drive where there's no homes, the first pond on the left side is pond
37.
36. 37 is Carina. So if on Cypress Grove Boulevard, where there's no homes, and there's a little sign sitting there in the middle, between the two communities, between Solera and, if it said, pond 37, across the street is pond 36, is that objectionable to anybody?
Well, Nancy's only comment was we already have so many signs
I
around.
understand, but if somebody
Yeah.
wanted to know.
Yeah. I think from the perspective of reporting something, if there's a problem on the pond, be helpful.
I don't have any particular ownership one way or the other, it's
My-
just an
my
idea to
guess-
make it better.
My guess, if they send you that email that there's a problem and you email back and say, what pond are you on? They're not gonna have paid any attention to that sign. It's just gonna be more noise out there, more signs that we just kind of tune out because there's too many already.
No good deeds goes unpunished.
That's right.
There's
The
no
horse,
signs
I might suggest the horse is out of the barn and that the individual communities can make a decision
Yes.
whether they want to.
And
Put it on
at
our
one time,
agenda.
if I may, there was consideration, talking with Tony Perez, that we were required to put up a sign saying no alligators
I
or
was gonna
snakes.
ask you about the alligator signs, that
Okay,
was my next
and
question.
the last direction that the board gave to the communities were, there will be a general sign someplace in the community that says, watch out for snakes and gators and ponds, but not individually marked per pond.
Well, they're in
Getting
every
back to
pond.
Nancy's question of too damn many signs.
Yeah, they are. There are too many signs, and there are alligators and snakes in every pond.
Yeah, but, after the Orlando incident where that poor little boy was hauled off by a gator.
Okay.
That's what drove it.
So what are we at?
Quit sharing with
We
fence.
gotta stop doing knee-jerk reactions.
Hey, come on.
Okay, let's move on here.
I think you missed an item.
I did.
The
Board
Yes.
meeting.
meeting reports.
The board meeting reports, you have the written report. Are there any questions?
Nope.
I have one question regarding, one of the reports that I did for the 12:15 meeting. I mentioned that there's going to be a job description for the new business manager, et cetera.
Yeah.
And it was supposed to be discussed at the board meeting I think you went to.
Right.
Do we have a job description of these new positions?
I assume we do, but I must admit, they were not discussed at that meeting.
Was
You know,
it
they-
one of
they-
these items that they just generally it was already done in writing and it was that automatic approval?
I think so. I mean, they've already advertised for the jobs. They're interviewing people for those jobs. Now, I believe they've already made appointments that the operating manager is gonna be Chris Shoemaker.
Right.
And that April White is gonna be the business manager, and they are now interviewing people for the other two jobs. The
Okay, but do
Public
we-
Works and the utility manager.
Do we know what the business manager's function may be in relation to PPAC?
No, but I'm sure there is a job description. We can get it.
Okay.
You're more optimistic than I am, but okay.
I'd like to make one comment, I guess, on one of those reports, maybe Philip was yours,
Yeah.
where we were reminded that Pelican is gonna have to pay for whatever the building is that people go to and all of our, I would just say, that Stephen and the Severn Trent people and the board needs to understand that it's a very small part of Pelican that will get its utilities from the district. So wherever those utilities are housed, that cost goes to those people and not to everybody else in Pelican.
Good point.
Yeah, I think.
Excellent point.
It's a good point, but there are still gonna be costs that are gonna be spread out over the entire community that are general overhead costs, not.
Absolutely.
Just not utility. And I think, by the way, I think the whole issue of costs and how they're allocated and changing of costs is gonna be an issue for another
A
day.
volatile issue for the next year.
Yeah, exactly. It is gonna be an issue for another day.
And we have to be very vigilant.
Yes, vigilant.
And by the way, Bob, and one of the reasons that I think, you know, and I know you are negative about having a charter, but I think a charter, if we can get the board to approve it, will help to lock us in a little bit better here.
I'm not negative about it, I
Yeah.
just don't know why we need it, that's all.
Yeah.
That's all right.
Okay,
I think we may need it in the future.
yeah,
Very important to have a good charter.
okay.
It is.
All right. Anything further on the board meeting reports? Okay, Safety and Security Work Group.
So you
Capital assets.
skip
I'm
that.
sorry, capital assets. Oh, the O&M agreement. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm a skipper. John, you want to go ahead and?
All right, I put out a report on we had a meeting on December 19th at WCI's headquarters with both attorneys from District Council, also WCI's attorney, Sarah, myself, and David Caldwell. You got a brief outline of some of the things that were finalized that both attorneys agreed to, David Caldwell agreed to, and I presented PPAC's concern regarding the arrangement on capital asset.
And that has been resolved.
And that has been resolved based on Phil's comment, and I think you also got that. So my only question, probably to you, Phil, the new agreement that Tony sent
I don't
out
think so.
with the one taking out
I didn't see it.
PPCA,
Yep.
has that been approved by WCI's
Yeah,
attorney yet?
John, is that in our packet paperwork?
Yes.
That you're referring to?
It was on, the final one is on,
Okay.
yes.
Yes, John, I believe it has. And so what Tony, you know, I think we can go ahead and approve the agreement.
Okay.
If there are no
I
other
think we
problems.
should too. I have one comment I'd like to mention on paragraph 6C, which discusses something that I had talked to Jason on, Sarah, and also I talked to April on prior to getting David Caldwell to agree that we have minor street repairs versus major street problems or minor problems in various communities. These minor problems, if it's under $2,500 and it's a CDD asset, rather than get Tetra Tech involved, and Tetra Tech agreed to this, I talked to Danny Nelson, rather than get them involved to writing specifications, going out for bids for something very small, because we already have a budget of $20,000 at the Master Association, that the HOA can do a minor repair, but it still would have to be inspected by Tetra Tech once it's done to get it reimbursed by the Master Association. So that was one item that is also now included in the agreement. I want to bring that to somebody's attention. As long as nobody here.
Well, I don't want to be negative, but the individual HOA is going to make a determination that something for $2,500 has to be done?
Well, a minor street repair, you're not gonna have Tetra Tech come in and do a specification or something on going out for bids. It would increase the price dramatically. Danny Nelson had no problem with this. He's the one that agreed on the $2,500 minimum because we already have a budget for $20,000 on street repairs,
Okay.
sidewalk repairs, et cetera.
You may be saying what I want to hear, but let me rephrase it. If Monticello has a problem with the road up at the turnabout, and they want it repaired, and Tetra Tech comes in and says, it's not bad enough, we're not gonna repair it, that's a dead issue then. But if Danny comes and says, yeah, that's a minor repair up to $2,500, I'm gonna do it, then they initiate this and do it. If that's what you're saying, that I can buy into.
Danny said he does not have to inspect it first. He can, that's up to the individual HOA.
Well, I don't-
Danny has to inspect the final repair. If he doesn't agree with it, then the HOA pays for it themselves.
Ooh, I don't like that.
That's up to the HOA.
After we tell them to go ahead and spend the money because we got it, then we're gonna go back and say, oh, we don't
No,
got it.
No, that's not the case. The HOA makes that decision. We're trying to do too many minor things.
Well, the one I'm talking about, I know took place. He asked Danny to look at it, Danny said it's nothing wrong. My HOA still wants to fix it,
Then he should fix it. The HOA wants to fix it, it's on them.
but the way this is now written is, my HOA could go and fix it,
No,
spend the
because
20.
Danny already
Wait,
said no.
wait, it's an example, John, that's all. If this new document takes place and now you go to Portofino, and Portofino has an area they want to fix, and they go ahead and fix it expecting us to pay the $2,500, and after they spend the money, now Danny's gonna come out and say, no, I wouldn't have done that.
Then it's not, then the HOA, it's their responsibility.
Because they did it without
Because they
getting.
did it without getting Danny there before.
But you're saying he doesn't need to do it, that's what that document says.
No, he has to approve it after they do it. And he could,
To me, that's ass backwards.
well, it depends.
The way to do it is say, I want to fix this, it's
If the
$1,500.
HOA wants to save the money prior to getting Tetra Tech involved and save money from the CDD, they're gonna charge for them every time they come on. It isn't always necessary.
But I'm inclined to agree with Bob. Wouldn't it be more sense to have Tetra Tech come out before you make a repair?
Not a big study, they're out in our community all the time, look at it and say, yeah, I agree, it needs to be done. No foul, no foul, I'm okay.
We wanna change it that way, I'm fine with that.
It's just a suggestion, I see it.
I don't,
some
I mean, Danny had
danger
no
fraud.
If Tetra Tech didn't have a problem with it, I don't see why P-PAC should have a problem with it.
I agree. I think the HOAs are gonna say they want Danny to come out anyway.
And that's up to
And
them.
if they do that, I just think it ought to be performed. Danny is out there all the time, folks.
But you don't like, I'm fine with that. I had no trouble ever getting Danny to come on.
I've never had trouble with any of
All
them.
right. I don't know about the other HOAs. In your case, where,
It's just an example, I mean, there's been
and
other.
that example was the HOA, they can still fix it.
Yeah, I think we
It's a
can
means.
have it like this, and we can advise the HOAs that they ought to get a pre-approval
Right,
from Tetra Tech.
that's fine.
I'm okay with that, if it says that. If it ought to say that though, and if Tetra Tech says no, because they chose not to do it, then it's gonna be on them.
Yeah.
I'm okay with it. If that's what it says, I'm good with that.
And Tetra Tech can also, if the HOA does it themselves, Tetra Tech can still not approve the way it was done.
That's what I'm saying. If that's
Well,
written
it's
in
in
there,
there, they have to approve it.
it's not what I heard, okay. Or maybe I didn't hear it right.
Weeds,
Yeah.
weeds.
Okay.
Yeah, I think what we need to do is just advise the communities that they ought to get advance approval from Tetra Tech if they would like.
Us money. If they're
us-
spending our money,
Our money, Master Association, is it Master Association money? Yeah.
CDD funds.
CDD
CDD
funds.
funds.
That they
Master
should get- they
Association,
should
I
get
don't
a
care
pre-
about that.
They should get pre-approval. We can just advise them of that.
And advising, but let's get this signed.
Yes,
mean,
I know.
Yeah,
That's what
both
I'm saying.
attorneys
but
said,
John, we
That's what I'm
can't
saying.
assign it until that's resolved.
Hmm?
He says he wants it signed. I don't agree with it the way it's written right now. If you're spending district money on district assets, by God, that's why we have a district engineer.
They're
He just
only
comes
allowed to
out,
spend
comes
up
out
to
and says, okay.
$2,500.
right, and already Tetra Tech had no problem with it.
The
They
HOA
don't want
should
it.
have some level of authority.
Sure
Not
they should.
overspending this money. If it's CDD money,
That's a
why should-
It's
control
already
factor.
approved.
HOA has money. And if HOA spends HOA money, I could care less. But anybody spending CDD money, I care about a lot.
And that's why Tetra Tech has to approve it, if they do.
After the fact.
Approving after
But
fact's not
25
approving.
No,
Uh,
no, it's not.
It's not, and I agree, but that's, April had no problem with it, Tetra Tech had no problem with it.
Okay,
David
Gephardt
Gold-
has a problem.
Gephardt has a problem. I would like to say, let's the committee vote.
Okay,
If you want to vote negative, fine. If the rest of the committee votes negative, fine.
I'm okay with that.
It seems to me, this.
It sounds backwards to me, too.
It does, it is backwards, but there's a minor stuff that has to get done sometime.
Yeah, but why it was written that way is
Well,
strange.
even the minor stuff, you can still do it the right way, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
Exactly, exactly. I don't think you're gonna get we can vote, but I think,
Well,
Yeah, why was it written that way? Seems like a strange way to do it.
I think we.
only because let's assume Tetra Tech wants to end up writing a specification for
No,
it.
no, we're not saying Tech, we're just saying Tetra Tech's gonna do the same thing they do here, but beforehand rather than after.
Oh, no. Tetra Tech better, if the HOA takes the responsibility to get it done with, let's say, their contractor, Tetra Tech better inspect it to be sure it was done correctly.
You make a
They
good
have to
point, John.
inspect.
But-
Afterwards, it has to be inspected.
Tetra Spec's gonna wanna do specs on it.
They have to inspect it afterwards too.
Right.
But before you have it done, let's say we have damage on our street and we want to repair it, but we think the CDD should pay for it. We need Tetra Tech to come in and say
Bingo.
yes or no. If they
Bingo.
say no, then it's up to us as a board to say we're going to pay for it ourselves.
Anyway, we want it.
And have it inspected afterwards.
It-
But I need to know
It- it-
upfront before I
excuse
ask
me,
my
sir,
board to pay
this-
for it.
This is the committee's.
Right. But you're going to have a specification, the way it was repaired, when it goes out for bid.
But I need to know, before I say to my board, I want to repair this, I need to know how much it's going to cost, and I need to know if the CDD is going to pay for it. Because my board has to know, is this going to be paid for by the CDD? Or are we going to be hanging out there for $2,000 that we may not have at this point in time?
Before you would get Danny out there, though, you better have a specification on how it's going to be repaired.
That's
Why?
Danny's job.
That's his
That's
job.
my point. If Danny has to do that specification on
But that's
how
off
it's
the
gonna-
shelf, John, that's off the shelf stuff like that.
We have to have it done by somebody. Why wouldn't we have it done by him? Rather than go
Guys,
to a
for
third party?
$2,500, it isn't, Danny, why get them involved with something that's
That's their job.
$2,500
That's
Because
their
less?
at
function.
this point in time, I don't know if the CDD is going to pay for it, or I don't know it's gonna be 2,500. Until I get somebody out to look at it, it could be 2,000, it could be 4,000. I don't know till they come out.
Well, maybe I look at it differently from our HOA. I mean, maybe I'm looking at it from an engineer's perspective. But we had no problem with getting specifications, our HOA, getting a written specification, getting a bid done like that, and getting a repair done. and Danny can look at those specifications and say that's exactly the way it would be done, and I have no problem approving it, and it was under $2,500. Thank you for not getting us involved initially, but I'm glad it was done correctly.
Okay,
I
so.
would like to entertain a motion that we approve the O&M agreement as written, with the exception of rewriting this paragraph to reflect what I think the rest of the committee believes should be done.
So
in
how
this
would you
particular case.
rewrite, is it paragraph, which paragraph?
I didn't get a copy of that.
6C.
I looked on the thing, I don't have it.
6C, is that the paragraph you're talking about,
Yes.
that's what had to be rewritten?
Yeah.
Well, maybe I do, I wasn't looking for it in small print.
If I read this, it says.
Let me ask,
has to do with
Jason,
creating
do
a
you
budget.
have any comments one way or the other?
Is this what he's talking about, this one here?
Well, honestly, I see where you're coming from. I mean, it does give the HOA the option to proceed, to expedite the process with the one stipulation that Tetra Tech has to evaluate afterwards. So it is a risk that they would be taking whether or not.
Well, they can always do that.
Correct.
All right, so if they did that, and Danny approved it afterwards,
Then it just would have expedited the process.
Well, here,
What happens
here's
if
my-
Danny disapproves it?
HOA member, if my HOA went and spent $2,500 hoping that somebody would approve it, and they didn't, I'd be voting for new board members on an HOA. I would want somebody to approve it first, that it's a good project, and I'm gonna get paid for it.
Don't wanna be surprised.
Otherwise, it's just a gamble, I'm flipping a coin, hoping the guy's gonna come out and say, oh, it's good, it takes all the responsibility off of your engineer. He doesn't have to come out and say it's good or bad, he just says, oh, I don't like it, tough.
Let me
I'd be
raise another
firing everybody
point.
on my HOA.
Let me raise another point. We, as a committee, can't spend a dime that's not in the budget, and yet we're going to delegate to the HOAs the potential to spend $2,500, up to $2,500 of,
In the budget.
of the funds.
God forbid Ted up back at the same time simultaneously.
Yeah.
Hey, Joe, look what my HOA did, you can do it too, they'll pay.
And that's how it's gonna work. So,
And now you have a $25,000 expenditure, and they're all good, each individual one's good.
you don't,
I want to second Phil's motion that we rewrite paragraph 6C.
Well, I don't know that paragraph 6C actually has to be rewritten.
I don't either.
Because it
Paragraph,
doesn't
it doesn't say anything that you guys
address,
are talking
it
about.
doesn't address what John's talking about.
Doesn't say anything.
It doesn't address the procedure. It just says,
Absolutely.
it just says they shall provide for. It doesn't address
Okay.
the procedure.
so we.
So the procedure,
Will be, and then we can,
Well, but it doesn't
Yep.
include the procedure you talked about,
Yep.
and certainly doesn't include
The
the
procedure
procedure
that
that
Bob
Bob is talking
talking
about.
about.
That's
it
not
just says they
addressed here
shall
at
just,
all.
it just says it shall, they shall, we shall provide for it. That's all
Shall
it says.
provide a budget.
We shall provide a budget. It doesn't address the procedure at all.
Right, so this is fine, the way it's written.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with it,
There's nothing wrong with it.
but it doesn't do what you said, John. It doesn't say that.
Yeah.
And it doesn't say what Bob would like for it to say.
Here.
no,
I
no.
think something
I
should be
got one.
included
Unless
that
it's a full
says
paragraph.
with Tetra Tech approval prior to the expenditure.
Well, what does the association budget mean? Is that our money, is that CDD, or is this
No,
HOA?
the association,
I don't care what they do.
yeah. The association's gonna pick up the tab.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
no, it's the money.
Money that we
That
provide.
we've already
Provide.
budgeted,
Provide to the
that we
association.
provide to the association. It makes it an easier process.
Well, that's okay too. If we give them a set amount of money, they're authorized to spend that money.
That's my point.
John, I didn't understand it, I'm now reading this. If this is money we've given the association, we've already given it to them.
But we've given it to all, an aggregate amount
the
to
association.
all of the
Aggregate amount.
To the
associations.
association.
And
To
then,
all of 'em.
Then Jason comes to us and says, Monticello has some road repairs, and it's $2,500, or it's, like we do for plant replacements and we
Mhm.
do for everything else, and we
Just
we
approve
say
it.
it's budgeted and we approve it.
And it stays in that total number of whatever Jason's
Right.
budget. Well, I'm okay with that.
All right, so the way it's worded, it's fine.
But then what do you do?
Not
when-
what you read, but what this says, yes.
But then what do you do when 10 people have
That's
these kind of
Jason's
road
problem.
repairs.
That's
Well, it's not, it's our budget.
Well, no, and
And then we tell
then
Jason,
we
cut
get
it
to the
out.
point where we've run the budget through,
You wait till next year.
you can wait till next year.
When the money's gone, it's
The
gone.
money's
Money's
gone,
gone, it's gone.
we can turn it down.
I'm okay with that.
But it's one of those things where Jason's gonna have to bring it forward and
Yes.
say,
Yep.
And I would suggest he do that before they spend it.
yes, exactly.
Bingo.
So instead of Tetra Tech, it's Jason bringing it up.
Job jar.
Okay.
That's Jason's responsibility.
Yeah.
Comes out of his paycheck.
Just so we got somebody to blame, we're okay.
So-
Can entertain a motion
So
that
we good then?
Entertain a motion that we recommend to the board that they accept the O&M agreement.
I'll make a motion.
I'll
as
second.
written. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
Aye.
7-0. Okay. John, do you have anything else, capital assets work group?
No, I covered that with the Mariscapes invoice that,
Yep.
so
Okay.
I'm fine with that.
Okay. If not, we move to safety and security work group, and I'm afraid that we're not finished yet. I hope some of you received the copy of the agreement, the traffic control agreement. I sent it to you rather belatedly, but I got it from Tony rather
Didn't have a chance to
belatedly.
look at it.
I would assure the members that the agreement is in sum and substance exactly the same as agreements we've seen previously with Paseo and other communities. It provides for the police to have a presence here, to enforce traffic, the speed limits and other traffic laws. And the one provision, which I believe I mentioned in one of my reports, this provides for, if at any point, by the way, and we had always presented this to it was approved by the GSCDD board, because we said it would be no cost to the community. At this point, it will be no cost to the community. However, this agreement gives them the right to put a charge in, but of course, if they do, then we will then withdraw from the agreement. So, do people feel a need for further discussion? of it?
Yeah, I do have
Yep.
a comment.
Okay.
And this is just something, a seed I want to plant for everybody. Ward 6, which includes Pelican and Paseo and a whole bunch of other communities, pay the majority of the taxes to the city. We're about 60 to 70% of the tax base and growing. And, because most of us have, in Pelican in particular, we have no kids. We're not using the school systems. We use very little, make very little demands on the city for use of those funds. So what I would say is that I think that point needs to be made, that if they go to ask us to pay, I think we raise that as a point that particularly Pelican makes no demands
Yeah.
on the city resources, and yet we pay an arm and a leg in taxes. And so therefore, out of all the communities they might have agreements with, we're probably the one that pays more and uses less.
Nancy, I think that's a good point, and I think that's a point that Gail Anthony would be sympathetic to bringing to the city council if we run into a situation. Right now, at this point, there's no charge to it. So,
I have one other question.
Yeah.
Appendix D was not attached on the
Appendix D.
email.
Appendix A.
Appendix D, right? Appendix A, I'm sorry.
A,
Appendix A.
and it is all the same roads as are covered by the O&M agreement. It does not, at this point, include the Cypress Grove roads. It only includes Old Pelican because that's all we can sign an agreement for. But the intent is to add Cypress Grove at the time that Cypress Grove is conveyed. So,
So at this point in time, they would not be able to patrol in the Cypress Grove area?
that's correct. That's correct.
I've seen them.
Hmm?
I've seen them.
Well,
They can patrol.
But they can't,
They can
but
patrol
they won't
anywhere they
issue
want.
They
tickets,
can patrol
yeah.
any way they want, and the other thing
This
you
is
should.
for speed limits
The
and
other
that
thing,
type of thing.
the other things you should recognize is that some of the patrol cars you see in here are Lee County Sheriff's Office,
That's true.
and they don't need an agreement. And I will repeat that it's the intent of the Safety and Security Work Group to set up a program and bring it forth to you, to this committee, set up a program with both the Lee County Sheriff's Office and the City of Fort Myers Police to coordinate with each other, and they've said that they will do this, to have patrol cars in here at various times in order to do what this thing is supposed to do, which is to cut down on traffic violations, particularly speeding in Pelican Preserve, on Pelican Preserve Boulevard. The traffic study that's going to be undertaken, one of the things they're gonna look at is speed limits in the various communities. And I should tell you that we got a resolution from Viadana to have the speed limit over, after the bridge on Pelican Reserve raised to 25 miles per hour. But we will have the traffic study look at that. They want it raised to 25 miles an hour, so it's then enforceable.
From 15 to?
From 15 to 25, so it's then enforceable by the police. It's not enforceable under 25 miles an hour. But that's something for a future.
All right, one of the concerns in doing that might be the golf carts coming
Yeah.
from, what hole was that, 3?
John, yeah, we're not ready to debate that one today, okay? That's a.
Traffic study.
That's a subject for another.
Well, for the
day.
study to consider.
For the study. So I would entertain a motion that we accept the sum and substance of this agreement. There is more to be done. There has to be now a survey of the signs in the community to make sure that they are consistent with the MUCTA provisions, and then we'll come back for an actual final approval. But Tony just wanted the committee to give its approval.
This is the scope of
The
what we're gonna
scope,
have studied,
that's
okay.
correct. Well, no, this is
Can I
not,
just
no,
interject
this
with
is not.
something? If you raise that, Pelican Preserve, what area you're talking about, just happens to be my neighborhood again.
You
it
should
goes
go
Yeah,
to-
I'm sorry.
Okay,
Because we're live on.
okay.
Oh, good.
And you-
Dita Husky, Viadana. I drive on Pelican Preserve, and it's 2 lanes, it's really good, in my golf cart. And when you go over the bridge,
Excuse me, I hate to cut you off. This has been a long meeting. We are not even addressing that now.
well, you're talking about the speed limit.
No, we really aren't.
Okay.
I only
I thought you were
I
talking
only
about the
brought
speed.
that up.
Okay.
For the committee's information.
Okay.
Okay?
I'm sorry. I thought you were
that's all
bringing
right.
that up 'cause-
What we are addressing is this agreement, and we don't want to get into speed limits now.
And
I would make a motion.
what is the agreement again, one more time?
The agreement is to approve the form of this agreement with the Fort Myers Police Department,
Okay.
between the Fort Myers Police Department and the Gateway.
Nothing to do with
Services,
traffic study,
CDD.
nothing, okay.
Nothing to do with the
I'm okay.
traffic study, just the agreement.
Make the motion.
Huh?
Make a motion.
This is, yeah, I make a motion that we approve sum and substance this agreement. And that,
Second.
Not even
and
finished.
that we recommend approval to the.
By the board.
Board of.
Well, they don't have to actually, I think,
Oh, they
get in
don't?
on it quite yet, until we
Yeah.
do this, until we do the survey of the signs, and
Okay.
then it'll come
Yeah,
back for a
final,
final
they have to
approval.
approve.
Take that out.
This is, unfortunately, Tony wanted this done, so, do I have a second to Nancy's? second?
Yes, I second.
Any further discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Praise the Lord.
Aye.
Okay. The only other thing I would say is with regard to the,
Well, I have one comment about the police. They come in the community right now.
right,
On my way up here today, somebody leaving the tennis courts parking lot somehow drove or tried to drive onto the golf cart parking lot. And the police were there and the fire department and everything. I don't know what, something happened to this individual. He was still in the car. And then there was more cops coming in as I left, and they were Fort Myers police.
well, yeah, they still come
Yeah,
in
they-
here.
they are
They're
in there.
allowed to come in here.
Yeah.
And they're allowed to enforce you know, dangerous driving and a lot of other things. It's just
I saw
that
more
people-
cops at that event than I've seen in 10 years.
There was
They tried
an
to park
incident,
him.
there
I
was
think
an
he lost
incident I
control.
could see from my lanai going out toward tree line, but it was on the golf course. I don't know what hole that is, but.
We had a lot of activity today then.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
This one was after 1.
all right.
Are bicycles considered part of safety?
Absolutely, and we are, and that's part of the study. So we're gonna be addressing bicycles and where they should drive and where.
Golf carts.
And golf carts should drive. And yes, we know that bicycles go through stop signs.
Well, that's not my concern. I have a lot of friends that bicycle, and they want to know why the chevrons were painted over.
Oh.
And, and,
He left.
Oh, goodness.
and they want to know, is it designated for cyclists, or why are they sharing it with golf carts? And who has the right of way?
Yes,
That's all gonna be addressed. in
it's
the
all
study.
gonna be addressed.
So what do they do in the interim?
They just.
Drive carefully.
Pray, I
Be
guess.
careful.
Drive carefully.
Bicycles
Drive
can
drive
ride.
carefully. That's the way it has been going on, I might add, for 15 years. And regardless of the fact that there were chevrons on the bike path. So people have had to watch out for themselves, and they will have to do it for a couple more months until we get this settled.
Okay, is it possible to ask the presidents to poll their residents on how many bikes and golf carts they have?
Well, it is possible to do that. Nancy had suggested that at the last meeting, I believe, or somebody had.
I did.
We could do that, but what I'd like to do is get the traffic study done.
Can we do them concurrently?
Well,
To what effect?
Yeah, to what effect?
To what effect?
Other than
There's
knowing.
Lots and lots
the
of
bicycles,
bicyclists.
we know there are
I'm
lots
one.
and lots of bicycles.
Well, my understanding is the GSCDD made the decision to cover up the chevrons. For one, we didn't get permission from them to do that.
Right.
And two, there are many, many more golf carts than
Yeah,
there
but-
are the 12 bikes that are in Pelican Preserves.
But Jan, counting the bicycles and the golf carts at this point isn't gonna get the GSCDD to change its mind.
Study.
The study is
We'll
gonna.
get into
We'll get
the amount of
into the
traffic.
issue, the amount of traffic, where the people are driving, all sorts of things of that sort. And that's what we need in order to go back to the CDD and start to get them to do traffic the way we think it ought to be done.
I think there is a liability issue, especially now that the CDD covered that over. And I don't know if that's ever been addressed.
Well-
It's a comment.
The CDD did it, they did it
Without-
even though,
Without our consent.
without our consent.
Right.
And I pled that they shouldn't have, you know, I mean, pleaded
I know.
with them.
We
that
begged
they
them not
shouldn't
to do it, they did it.
They did it anyway.
I just hope there's not a bicycle accident.
Well, a cyclist I ride with said, if I get hit by a car, can I sue the CDD?
Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely.
And I said, I would.
Yeah,
Call Morgan and Morgan.
Yes.
Well, you have another issue, because if a golf cart is coming down on a bicycle, he's gonna pull out in the traffic lane,
Yes.
rather
That
than
we-
always being in the
We've
traffic.
been through,
Which I
we've
like.
been through
Plus,
all
they
of
stick
this.
out partly into
Well,
the
I
traffic
know.
lane
Got
anyway,
here, Jay.
when they're in that golf
Huh?
cart.
Oh, this has been
I
going
was-
before I got
Oh,
here?
oh,
yeah.
I was in
It's
charge
been
of
going
the
on like,
original
what, 2 or
analysis.
3 years.
I should just tell you, with regard to the traffic study, we have finally, after about 3 or 4 weeks, got a proposal from Johnson Engineering. The current proposal is extremely detailed. It exceeds the amount of money in the fund that we are owed by Johnson, so we're gonna be,
Surprise,
the
surprise.
Safety and Security Work Group is gonna be meeting next week to see that we can trim it back to a certain degree.
Well,
Because
we did put money in the budget this year.
I know
for-
we did. I know we could spend budget money, but I think there's more there than there ought to be.
Okay.
In any event.
Squeeze them,
Huh?
squeeze them.
Well, we want to squeeze them, and frankly, there are things in this thing that need to be changed.
Okay.
There a whole approach to it needs to be changed, and we're going to be working on that. Any other questions?
What do you have
One
an
more.
end date for the study? Do you have
No, not yet.
not even a target internally?
Not even a target internally.
Okay.
The way they stated it, Johnson is saying it'll take a couple of months, but I think we want to cut some stuff out of it.
One more.
Any other questions, safety,
Yeah.
security?
It was reported to me by a neighbor that they have observed a peeping Tom.
You
And-
gotta be kidding.
No, I'm not.
In our neighborhood?
Jason?
Pointing out.
I told them to call the police.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
But the question, it became a topic of discussion, as everything does in Pelican. Why don't the roving cars see any of this. You can't catch everything. So, but my question is, they may make people feel safer, but I'm not sure they are. Can we find out how much we pay for that? Jason?
We know.
We know?
We know.
Jason?
How much do we pay for the roving patrol cars, the Securitas?
No, I think it'd be got it
I
in the
don't know
contract.
breakdown of that bill.
Security.
Monthly service.
I think
You
so.
have the contract.
Not just the road.
And the contract for the roving patrol is quite expensive.
Oh, yeah,
That's a
it
pretty
is.
good part of it.
Oh, yeah.
It's in the contract.
I just don't remember how much, but it's
Yeah.
there.
I have the contract.
Yeah, and it specifically outlines the rover, what it
Yeah.
costs.
Jan, may I suggest
ain't
that
cheap.
you find out what it is in the contract and bring this issue up? If you feel that.
24
it's-
hours a day, 7 days a
if you-
week,
if you-
rover.
If you feel it needs
I
to be.
do.
Reviewed and
I do.
everybody.
It's a couple of thousand anyway.
Yeah.
I don't think we need to spend that money.
I want to know who in
Okay.
Pelican's good enough that you want to peep at.
Jesus.
I'm sorry.
Okay, any other safety and security work group questions? All right, Gateway meeting attendance schedule. Ron is not able to make the
19th.
January 19th meeting. Is there somebody who could make the January 9th, cover for Ron on the January 19th meeting?
It's a long meeting,
Anybody?
isn't it?
No.
It-
Am
I have
getting-
visitors
Huh?
coming, I can't go, I have visitors.
I'll
I'm
cover it.
looking.
It starts at 3,
I'll cover it.
Always. You'll cover it?
it
Thanks,
goes
Bob.
till 6.
Okay, Bob will cover it. We also need to figure out, let's see, we already have coverage for February, is that right?
No problem, Ron.
Yeah. We already have coverage for February. We'll work on the future coverage at the next meeting. No, only February 2nd.
Want me to take the second one in February?
Jan, you're still up for February 2nd, is that right?
No, the resident meeting, alliance meeting is that afternoon. I don't want to miss that.
Second?
Isn't
Oh,
it
yeah,
February
yeah.
2nd?
Yeah, Residents Alliance.
Yeah, you're
meeting.
right. You're right.
I don't want to miss that meeting.
Yeah.
We don't
I've got
go,
the
is that a
GSCDD
problem?
meeting down, but they rescheduled the resident alliance meeting.
Yeah,
and-
you're
You're
right.
right, it
You're
is.
right, you're right, it is February 2nd.
It is.
You're right. I
Plus
think,
it's Groundhog Day.
I can't, I'm on jury duty.
Yeah, well, you can cover the 19th.
I thought you were giving the presentation at the Alliance meeting.
Well, I'm doing that too, but I'm still on jury duty. Somebody will be there if I don't.
I think we probably won't have any coverage at the February 2nd meeting. Try and send I will send in a report, but we won't have any coverage.
I'm sorry.
How about February 16th?
I'll do that one.
You will, Ron? Okay.
Beat me to it. Good guy.
Okay. Ron will take the February 16th meeting. Okay, let's move on. Committee member requests and audience comments.
Just a
Yeah.
comment. A number of residents that live on Trieste that do not live on a pond, but live on the golf course, have some standing water issues that WCI has not addressed for them. And it seems to be a dispute over whether there's a golf course runoff problem that's not adequately drained, or whether there's existing piping, et cetera, that is clogged. So on behalf of ponds, to help those neighbors, we said we would scope those pipes for them to help determine what the issue is. We had a precedent where we did it in another neighborhood about 3 years ago. We found a blockage. The WCI then cleaned it out when we told them what it was. And it's only $187 a foot. So we're probably talking less than $200, but I just thought I'd bring it up.
Okay. I would mention one, somebody from Palazzo captured me at the president's meeting. They have problems with their road, which of course belongs to them, but they are going to be, at some point, probably propose that the CDD take over the road per se, because it's really an extension of Pelican Preserve Boulevard. They feel it's different than the Ravenna and Sienna Road, which are inside their communities. This is an extension. Just told you that that's a possibility. It's not there yet.
Would we have the authority to do that? I mean, I don't think it's a bad idea.
Huh?
I don't think it's a bad idea, but
I don't either.
I don't know whose authority it would take.
I don't know whether we would. And, you know, they're concerned, they'd like a speed limit sign on that road. Well, at this point, it's their responsibility.
That's a covenant issue, isn't it?
Hmm?
I certainly have, he said it's a covenant issue.
Yes.
It would be a transfer of assets, I mean, there's a lot of legal involved.
Yeah, I'm sure, I'm sure.
But conceptually, I guess I would
It's not-
disagree.
Is that their only issue? They want a speed limit sign?
Well, they want a speed limit, and they want it controlled, by the.
If we take the road, we take the road, under it.
No, I would
it.
say regardless of taking the road, I mean, we're at that traffic circle there, that's the beginning of their property.
Correct.
Yes.
Right? Put a 15-mile-per-hour speed limit sign.
Well, they can do that on their own without us, it's
Yeah.
their road.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's what, $500?
Do they know they can do that on their own
I'm
right
sure
now?
they-
On their road.
Oh, yeah, they know it's their own
It's-
road.
But do they know they can put up a speed limit sign without?
Yeah, I don't know, but I.
They might even
They
maybe
don't
put
have-
one that's not 15. They could probably put one that's 25.
No, they don't want it raised. They don't want it raised.
This is a private road.
40 mile an hour.
They want theirs low.
Low?
Yeah, because their cars all back right
Back,
on the
oh,
road.
right in there.
Oh,
They
okay.
back,
Wow.
they back right onto the road.
Oh,
That's-
no, they don't care, they want it
Sure.
15.
They back right
Because they
onto
said
the road.
they're backing right out
It's a
into the road
potentially
from the
dangerous
carports.
situation.
Like, they really need to put up some sign control.
They do.
there.
Yeah.
Speed
Yeah.
control signs.
Yeah. Any other comments? Anything from this?
In the reorganization,
This is the.
are we gonna have a district manager or somebody come to our meetings in the future?
Not that I
They
know
didn't give me the
of.
costs with it. This is all I got.
I'd like to know the,
They didn't give me
their
the
scope.
contract.
What did we
They're
decide
messy.
on
They're
that?
like,
Who's
"You got the
gonna
contract."
find that out?
What?
Their, what their job function is.
Why don't you undertake it, John, since you're interested?
I will do that.
Will you do that? Okay.
You want a copy of the job descriptions?
Hmm?
Copy of the job.
Yeah, try and slip
Yeah.
in that they should come to this meeting.
Yeah. Okay, John, will you pursue that?
Yes.
Okay. Any other comments? Audience comments?
It echoes.
Oh, is this,
It echoes.
Any other audience comments?
my wife tells me that all the time.
Next meeting is February 9th. Motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Meeting is adjourned.
It's the fastest thing we do all day.
We're good at that.
Okay.
Jason, before you run off.
So Nancy, what have you gotten me into?
I sent a note.
I'm gonna split.
Okay. I will,
Yeah, John.
both having surgery on Monday.
Sure.
And I don't know.
No, I understand
I'm gonna be
why
out of
you
pocket
can't.
for a while.
No,
yet.
Is there a way to determine if their job
Thank you.
description is already?
Because of that, he volunteered me.
Thing where they just in the
He knew what you were gonna be doing.
Well,
Cindy is the president.
because of the,
You're president.
because of running around the hall, I really haven't done
Well, would that
a
be in
whole
the
lot on
minutes?
it.
Chief is the bit to spend this money.
Why don't you just?
There's
He did mention to Phil about the roads.
What about
I've
Bill
been
Gates?
waiting on
That's
Stephen
against it. And I still kind
to
of
come up with a list of Pelican assets and the date that they were acquired.
So that's different than what's in the O and M
Yes,
thing.
and so, so Stephen needs to push on if he got it. That my next step was
Plus you have the carts
do
coming
that, but at the
off the
same
golf
time,
course
call
and making
Jack
that little
Richards, who did the original study for us. Jack
And
Richards.
they must have voted on that at their board meeting because
I've got his
he
number.
did say
Well,
he
yeah.
passed a resolution to ask.
Yeah, and just ask Jack, because in Jack's study, he has
the board-
dates of,
No, but he may have some of that
so he
information.
may have some
No,
of
that's
that,
your
and I
general
told
meeting.
Stephen to get in touch with Jack.
That's for all the residents. In a board
And I
meeting,
don't
they
know if
must
he's done
have
it,
done
but
something like
if
that.
Jack has all this
Because
information,
his,
and it's, we think it's reasonable.
Well, at least it's a starting point.
well, he said they have a
And
resolution.
some of
You
the
might want to talk to Phil
information
about that.
would have been in the bond fund, because that tells. when
Check
we
with Ron.
Some of the
But you know what?
stuff, so I may
None
have
of
some of
that's
that
gonna
for you
happen
too.
till the traffic study anyway.
But
And the traffic study should be.
once we have that, then it's a matter of contracting.
So we want to do our own, because I know the CDD is talking about doing something
You know,
similar.
the guy that was sitting there in the
So
corner.
we want to be
building,
separate from that?
Yes.
He's
Yes, I think.
our
Who
own.
made
We
it.
went through, because we did our own.
Well, I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think we do want to be separate, because we're already down the road of conserving and everything else.
He might, well,
And
what he said at the meeting
until the
really
Track
had
L
Jan
was
trying
turned
to sense.
over,
I think it was last week's
there's
meeting.
that
He said,
piece,
we have 400 golf
that,
carts and polo preserves and a couple
we'll have to
thousand-
come into
Yeah,
it.
'cause all those roads,
Yeah.
they're not bonded. You're gonna have
My
to do
neighborhood,
it.
there's all of the assets.
There's more than that in my fourth
Yeah,
garage.
I would want them to do the study of the whole community,
Oh, absolutely.
whether it's turned over or not,
Okay,
and
yes,
then
yes,
just
which
to
is why
separate
she's
it
pushing for that
into
to be
different
done.
parts.
And Jack, in effect, has taken a stab at doing some of the Cypress Grove stuff.
Yeah, I know,
And
I know, so.
he had
So we're gonna
given
have paper
Phil a
certificates.
copy of what
Well,
he'd
no, the
done.
CDD
I don't know
is
when,
making it stuff.
Yeah.
well, yeah.
Yeah, because of the
And,
stupid thing he did.
and I,
Years.
at one of the meetings here, gave it to Philip Rovner,
The CDD.
who was here, and Philip had said he would
So
work
that's gonna cover.
with me, I'm sure he'd work with you too.
Who is it?
They owe
Philip Rovner,
How's that
Rovner?
work?
Rovner.
Well, I think they did a study on
NER.
that was not accepted or
And,
something wrong.
And Philip is a retired accountant, and
In lieu of paying
would be a
the
big help.
One man.
If he's had a chance to look at this at all, would be a big help on the
This is
value.
from my study wall or something?
Your grandchildren.
Well, you need
If you'd
to
like a map
follow
of your
that you want. Carol Brockman, yeah.
Oh, shoot, can that be, what do I do?
Oh, is this for
So,
me?
Philip
great.
has
A new
the
map of
latest
community.
one that Jack
And
did.
where
Jack
am I?
may have
I'm right there.
another
Well-
copy of it he could share with you
I
electronically.
agree.
But
And-
he'd
and
given
maybe
Phil
I should be cutting off discussion.
a copy,
Don't
and
understand why they're.
The other
since Philip
comment
was gonna
is
help,
the
I
stuff
let him
we
take
need-
it
we
to
need
look
to
at, so.
Because we
I
can't.
don't know what my pond number is, I can't read that writing,
We
it's
don't-
way
we
too
can't
small.
So-
6, and I could swear I
together
was on
between
pond
us.
37.
I will email
So I would
30
just send her an
minutes.
email and ask her to do.
Yeah, whatever,
Email
whatever,
address.
like, relevant
That's all that
information.
has to be done?
We're talking
I'm
about
sorry,
the
I came in.
Yes.
Dan,
But-
Mrs. D.
But I think it has to include the
Great, we
whole
can communicate
shebang.
prior.
Because eventually all that stuff is gonna come over here.
Yeah, well,
Yes.
that's what.
And we may need to go out.
No, it should have been included too.
Jack,
It
I'm
should have been in the
sure
package.
interested in.
I know.
According to Bill Guy.
Well, I'm saying because Bill Guy said.
I was telling you,
There were issues at the time, I guess, with his formula for figuring out age and how quickly our roads would wear out and all that kind of
Yes.
stuff.
Yes.
He'd have to
That's,
reduce some of that.
that's what I.
Traffic studies should help.
these are actually
So hopefully they'll do
CDDs
some
and
volume.
so.
Yeah.
Everybody in the circle.
We get volume information,
Yeah.
so we can, which he didn't have back then, I suspect.
Guy next door is not. The other thing you should be aware
What if they
of
shared
is,
that?
and I think I put this in, maybe I told Dave Tinkle,
So I actually pulled over on a side street and wait.
Yeah.
Your original presentation, both of them share that drainage.
Grove
pipe.
and.
Steve,
So you have two
can't come up
houses.
with those numbers.
But the other side of the guy's house won't.
I mean, I
He thinks
ride.
maybe,
One further.
Okay,
he
I
thinks
like,
maybe Steve
Well,
can't.
Norm-
the idea is, what, if you get the HOA, to say,
Because they don't
Like
fit.
When they're in that
2012.
lane, they
They don't
don't fit.
fit.
And I think that's more dangerous.
how would you-
because now you-
all
if you get two cars
what
coming,
he
they
has
don't think
access
it's
and
too
these
high,
homes
that car.
here,
He didn't,
you have a
Then
set
what if
amount of
you do
money
is
you're
that-
gonna do
what if
he
you
for,
might
There's
be
a
another,
question.
he might be another
Drainage.
resource.
but
Well, the golf
we
cart
do
is
an
going fast
assessment
to
with
work
the
like this, so he
He's
should
the
HOA
one
have
takes
who's hot on having
responsibility
the gateway do
which
it.
is
be
another
sure
bad
that these drains are
No, like I
He
watched
would-
one
yeah,
today.
and he
It
knows
was in my
quite a bit
car.
about it.
Here's how I
So
would
he's
answer
another
that.
resource you may want to talk to.
I was driving
We're
down
gonna have a
and
contract.
there was a golf cart
Information for
in
Jack?
the bicycle
Does
lane.
he zone?
And he
Not
decided
anymore.
Oh, you
he
don't
was
have
going
any
to
Philip
information?
Robner has.
Philip
These
Robner
ones
has.
Oh, he's got all.
And he
Philip Robner.
stuck his arm out to turn, he never looked, he just pulled
And
right
Jack
on
may
the
have
way.
another copy.
Now, that'll be $1 amount in
That's why
firm
he
contract.
gave Phil.
We can get
Oh, I
an
know,
addendum
I know.
to the
That
contract
had.
I had a lady.
to cover these
Yeah.
3 or 4 and
My
these
cycle
7 or
was
8 or whatever.
That's going to the transfer
And
as a left
so
hand
that it's all being
lane.
Yeah,
done
he was
at one
proposing
time.
Correct.
But
a new
the way the bills
study.
come out
Lady,
is to do the bonds portion,
And we-
is X
yeah.
number of
So-
dollars.
This
Do the
one
rest
and
is
cut
full
one
number,
as
Jack?
long as
You know,
it's
Yeah,
done.
yeah,
She
I'll
goes
have to go home and.
Then
Yeah,
you get
yeah.
it done just as
So-
cheaply as we
So
are,
I go in
and then
and I
everybody
said,
will be
"Were you
in
a
it.
bit of a hurry, lady?"
She goes,
Very
well, you
good.
should have been in
How
that
can it
lane.
be
I said, "You
prorated?"
checked the bike laws."
And
I
hopefully.
It's not a prorated. I know what it's gonna cost me to do mine, and that's gonna be $600.
And then everyone else got out.
Yeah.
I said, left.
And then there's another price to do the whole community.
We'll see how far we get.
It's like, you know,
Month and a half.
It's straight like that. You,
Well,
as an
I may,
HOA,
I hope
that's
I'm
not
not
prorated. That's up to you.
Oh, okay.
But then you're not prorating it.
Yeah.
Then you're prorating it on total cost. The total cost is gonna all of Portofino.
Right.
You exclude what
A lot
we're
of these
paying.
operations.
And that now comes out to $1,000.
Well, thank you very much.
Even though the $1,000 does 5 homes, when you go to do it, you'll do the $1,000 by all 50 homes.
Because some of these here probably already have your
That I don't-
bubblers.
Yeah, that I don't.
When you inspected that, did it include everybody's?
I don't know, because I didn't.
So we
And
get a
Doug
copy of
Xanter,
that?
Doug Xanter, he called Doug. Doug Xanter did every neighborhood, every home, he knows what's there.
it says your
His
name.
focus was
It
only
has a
on the
picture of your
bonds.
Well, I
license.
guess
He wouldn't have looked at
You wouldn't have looked at the
And
non-homes.
everything's all scanned, it goes quick.
Exactly.
Because I think, I mean, I know
This
from
is-
our HOA, I would rather have the whole thing done, because it makes
I
it a
wouldn't
lot
fight that,
easier.
I wouldn't fight that, as long as you understand we're only.
And I agree with you on the construction vehicles, it's like,
There's stuff coming in that.
oh, yeah, we having something?
No, my friend of mine had knee replacement
Nope,
today.
no, we're not ready to
And
talk
so
about
Mike
that.
and I took shifts because I had to
Only
be, I
to
had
the sense
president's
that
meeting this
this
morning,
is
so I went
coming.
right up to the hospital
Well,
after
now, wait a
that.
minute.
I stayed with her
You
till right
got
before.
two-
Jason,
Now Mike's up there waiting.
I'll send you an email based
No, I
on what
know.
our discussion was today too,
No, it's too.
regarding like that tree and it, you know, and how we want to, how you want to handle it.
They are really considered, they are really considered Tiberio. but-
Let me try to summarize it in an email and then before, then I'll take it to
One
the
president
board.
has it all, and all the homeowners are in one HOA.
Yeah, they were, originally, they were, yeah, originally.
That's what our engineering study, arborist.
Well, Valentina's so small, yeah.
That's right. So they rolled them into the other.
I was told, I was told $500
So we may be rolling.
by the president who said he had a copy of those.
Covenants are actually in my mailbox, like you
Yeah.
say they are.
Adjourn?
When I get home.
So maybe give me the-
We are adjourned.
Okay.
Okay.
You
Yeah.
guys have new jobs.
Yeah.